So good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to the February 28, 2023 meeting of the Calvert County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Swanson to come forward and give us an invocation. Good morning, sir.
Morning. Morning. Greetings from Bayside Baptist Church, Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. It's good to be with you this morning.
Good to see you.
Bless you all. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day that you've given to us. Lord, your word says this is the day that you have given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So every day that you give to us, we are certainly thankful. And Lord God, I'm thankful for this time we can gather with this groups of brothers and sisters, these county commissioners who are so dedicated to serving this wonderful county that we know is Calvert County. So thankful for their service. Thank you for their families. Thank you for the staff of Calvert County, those who serve us faithfully day in and day out. Lord, your word tells us in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 to trust in the Lord in all that we say and all that we do. Lord, let us walk the walk of you. Let us lean not on our own understanding, and let's lean on you, Father. And if we do that, Lord, you will make our path straight. So help us, Lord, to lean on you, lean on your wisdom and your understanding. And thank you for giving that to us. Lord, we thank you also for those who serve us faithfully in our armed forces. Lord, bless them, watch over and care for them, protect them. Lord, thank you for those who serve in our law enforcement, our first responders, Lord, our firefighters. Lord, thank you for their families as well. Again, give your divine protection to them. Lord, you also tell us in your word, Matthew 25, to reach out for those who are less fortunate to us. Your word tells us whatever we do for the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you do also for us. So, Lord, help us to be mindful for those that are in need, those who are hungry, those who are thirsty, the orphan, the widows. Lord, help us to be mindful of them and reach out and minister to these folks, these brothers and sisters. So, Lord, again, thank you for this day and thank you for this time we can gather. Bless the work of these commissioners, the service of these commissioners, the service of this county and this staff. And all that we say, all that we do, let us glorify your name. And Lord, we ask these things in your name, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I want to thank Pastor Swanson for driving down from Chesapeake Beach today and joining us. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. So the next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
I have none.
Move to approve the agenda as adopted.
Second.
Have motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Oh, ho.
With the addition of one new consent item, please.
My apologies.
Oh, yeah. If I should just follow my script.
Thank you.
Move to approve and adopt the agenda, moving that,
Adding,
adding one new consent item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that we approve the agenda as presented, adding one new consent item from the Board of Education. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can't even keep me on track with the script. Public service announcements. See if I can mess that up. March is Women's History Month, so it's a time to commemorate and study and celebrate the vital role of women in American history. And also, we just recently celebrated the one-year anniversary of the Ukraine invasion, a very unfortunate situation. We hope that gets resolved quickly. And what's becoming too regular in our weekly announcements is deaths in our community. First off, Eddie Wood of, Prince Frederick's son Kevin used to work for us, passed away this week. First Sergeant Thomas Phelps of the Calvert County Sheriff's Office, his mother Rosemary passed away this week, and Linda Wells, mother of Johnny and Wayne Wells, both of our Sheriff's Department passed this week. So we want to send our condolences and sympathies to the families of those individuals.
Eddie served on the liquor board with Sambo Swan for years. I don't know how many years. It was a lot.
That was way back. Yeah. That's all I have. The first item on the agenda, under proclamations, is a recognition of the Humane Society. Commissioner Hart.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, and do we have some members from the Humane Society who'd like to come up and speak? Come on up, come on up. Come on up. Yeah, see who you are and then come on up. Yeah. No, please, if you could introduce yourself in the mic. Yeah. Uh-huh.
My name's Gail Preisel with the Humane Society.
Yeah.
Stand right up here.
Good morning, how you doing this morning?
My name's Janet Dixon, and I got Gail into this trouble.
Good
Thank you,
morning.
sir, very much. Good morning, Tanya Gott. I'm the president of the Humane Society of Calvert County.
You're quite welcome.
Jill Lee, I'm a Humane Society friend.
Good morning.
How are you?
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Here are our partners, Joyce, Darrell, and Christy.
Yes, and thank you for what you do to if folks don't know. It is truly God's work. If you've ever been out there, you wonder about these pets that are disabled. You know, you don't think about that. You know, you know, with us, you know, there's so many services to help, you know, with rehabs and stuff. But where do you go with your pets and stuff? And these fine folks do that every year. Constant 365 thank you. If you ever go out there, it's truly amazing. And thank you. And if any of you don't know about, before I get into this with this young lady right here, if you're ever somewhere and Tanya Gott's there, look out. You're coming home with a dog. Okay? You walk in, here, hold this dog. Next thing you know, it's coming home. Oh, yes. 2 of our 3 came that way, yes. And I'll let you know, he still howls, okay? Yes, he does. He talks. This dog knows how to talk. He howls, talks, and then stirs the other 2 up. And I think of Tanya every day.
Every time.
At least he's thinking of you.
I know, at least he's thinking of it.
Oh, yeah. So, no. So it's incredible stuff that you guys do. It really does. It touches me deeply. It really does. So we have this proclamation for you this morning. And it says, whereas the Calvert County Board of Commissioners desires to recognize and honor citizens who have contributed to enhancing the quality of life in Calvert County. And whereas Gail Barker Preisel has made volunteering in Calvert County, did I say it wrong?
No.
Oh, okay. I do that, you know. A Way of Life has initiated, organized, and advocated and worked hands-on for the betterment of the Humane Society of Calvert County, which provides care and support to animals in Calvert County. And whereas Gail, a resident of Calvert County, has voluntarily served at the Humane Society of Calvert County for 22 years, her impressive list of volunteer endeavors includes walking the shelter dogs, numerous hours of fundraising for the society, including the initiation and influence to establish the Rock and Roll fundraiser featuring the fabulous hubcaps. And they're still great. I saw them, was it maybe your function last year? So they're still great after all this time.
One more year and they're retiring.
Is that really? Really? I was wondering, yeah, I met a guy, he played sax for them years ago. His name's Jeff. And yeah, we talked about that. I mean, they're a cool group. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County presents the proclamation as a tribute to Gail's outstanding and accomplishments, thereby recognizing the amazing women who strives to improve the quality of the life, amazing woman, I'm sorry, who strives to improve the quality of life for all Calvert County animals and citizens. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Calvert County Commissioners that appreciation of all Calvert County citizens is hereby extended to Gail Baker Preisel for her volunteerism during her decades of dedicated and commendable public service. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County joins with the community and Gail's co-workers, family, and friends in conveying best wishes and continued success in all her future endeavors given under our hands and seal this 28th day of February 23.
I'm very grateful for this, and thank you to Janet and all my HSCC family. And I'll be back. I'll be up and down the road visiting.
All right, let's get a picture.
Thank you.
If you want to flip around the,
Oh, yeah,
yep,
yeah.
so we can see it, yeah, there we go. Front center.
Tell you what.
1, 2, 3, smile.
1, 2, 3. Thank you, Katie. We're in sync.
Babe, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you'll be talking to me.
You guys have a great day, okay? All right.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have you, if you want to say a couple words, you can thank you. There we go.
Oh, really?
Gail and I go back a long ways. Our daughters dance together, and we went to many competitions together. But, and I've known Gail to always be a big animal lover, and she has done so much for the critters in this county. She's walked them, she's talked to them, she posts pictures of them on Facebook so people know that they're available for adoption. And she's just done so much. Gail, I love you so much. And I just want you to know that I so much appreciate all the hard work that you've done. And you too, Tanya. It's been a wonderful, wonderful thing that you've done, and you are so deserving of this. I also want to thank all the commissioners and dear Katie here for helping me get this recognition for this lady. I don't think that sometimes citizens, especially citizens like Gail and Tanya even, I hope somebody recognizes you, Tanya, but I don't think there's enough people that recognize people for their goods in this day and age. And I believe, it's my personal thought anyways, that it's important. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy, and I know that there's a lot of service members out there that use dogs specifically. Now, I know I don't think you train them specifically at your site, but I know that there's many dogs probably from your site that go to places to be trained to service disabled veterans. So that it's very, very important that we take care of our critters, not just dogs, but cats too, and there's other animals out there as well. So anyways, thank you so much. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you again, Katie. I love you, Gail, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sal, would you please come forward, please? So we're going to start out with a video. You can introduce yourself.
Sal Licasa.
So you come right on up front.
Morning, Sal.
That was their cue.
Morning.
There we go.
might hear them getting upset with each other when somebody's in somebody else's territory. Too close to it, you might hear them do things called caterwauling. All those sounds like dogs.
The winner of this meaningful contribution to the community is Mr. Chris Hoffman.
What a great video. Your event this year is April 1st, correct? April 1st, that's correct. You want to talk about it? Go ahead, the microphone's yours.
Thank you very much. Again, good morning, everyone.
Speak directly into the microphone.
Again, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
As we just mentioned, the event is to be held annually on the first Saturday of every April. This year it falls on April 1st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Jordan Point Clubhouse. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, we'd like to thank you for all your support. A big shout out to Katie and Linda for all your assistance. It's much appreciated. So thank you very much. I came before you here over a year ago, humbly asking for your support, and you delivered. You really did. Our inaugural event was a tremendous success and brought people together from all walks of life. And wow, did the children have a great time, as you can see from the video. We estimate that over 400 people attended throughout the day, and we donated $3,000 to Al Moon Rescue Center. Not bad for a first-year event. Al Moon provides rehabilitation services to raptors here in Calvert County. This year, our festival is growing exponentially. Recipients of this year's events will include Calvert Nature Society, Al Moon Raptor Center, and Phoenix Rehabilitation Services. We anticipate a great turnout. We are prepared to double the amount of attendees. We are truly going to celebrate Osprey Week as proclaimed by our Board of Commissioners, on a proclamation here later. So leading to Saturday's main event, the festival will have a lot of learning and fun opportunities. On Thursday, March the 30th at 7 p.m., the foremost authority on ospreys in the Mid-Atlantic, Mr. Greg Kearns, will be speaking on osprey social protection and migration. On Friday, we're going to have recording artist Deanna Duff host a concert. Both of these events are free and will be held at Durham Point Clubhouse. None of this would be possible without our sponsors, so we'd like to give them all a big shout out. So thank you very much for that. One last thing I wanted to add was that Paxatonic Field has a tradition about seeing its shadows when we're done, but we have our own tradition. We have started our own tradition. If you see an osprey before March 7th at the Drum Point area, that means the warmer days are ahead. I happened to see one last Sunday, excuse me. So this could only mean one thing: warmer days are coming, and our festival will be well attended by our local ospreys. You should be there as well. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Where'd you see your osprey?
Drum Lake.
Was it?
Yeah, so
It's early.
it's early, so we started a little tradition for that, and I think it's going to be a lot more accurate than Paxatonic Field, which is.
We have a little text group, and whoever sees the first osprey gets right on there. They have to have a picture to prove they saw it. So. That's your picture you took?
That's not this year, but that's the pictures. All the pictures that you saw were from me.
All right, so we have a proclamation here for you. You can stay where you're at if you'd like. Whereas the Maryland Osprey and Nature Festival was inaugurated in Calvert County in 2022, and whereas the Maryland Osprey and Nature Festival shall be celebrated on Saturday, April 1st, 2023 at the Drum Point Club in Lusby, Maryland, and subsequently celebrated yearly on the first Saturday in April. And whereas the funds raised will be used for education, conservation, rescue, and rehabilitation of ospreys, eagles, and other raptors, wildlife, and nature projects that will directly benefit Calvert County. And whereas the Maryland Osprey and Nature Festival encourages everyone to learn more about wildlife and nature in our beautiful Calvert County and the state of Maryland. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Calvert County Commissioners that the week of March 27th through April 1st, 2023 be recognized as Maryland Osprey and Nature Festival Week in Calvert County. Be it further proclaimed that all citizens are encouraged to support this family-friendly festival in its education, conservation, and celebration mission. Given under our hands and seal this 28th day of February 2023, signed by all 5 county commissioners.
Yeah, let's see, you can go right up front in the middle. We'll put the commissioners right on each side of you. Perfect. Smile.
Go 1, 2, 1, 2. Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Sal, how's it going?
Well, thank you very much.
Year 2, huh?
Year 2, thank you very much again. Good. Thank you again.
Being a dope Friday night.
Dean and Dope Friday night, and then we have electrocution on Thursday night as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. You something.
All right, we good. Thank
All
you.
right.
Perfect, thank you so much. Yeah.
Hopefully the weather will be really good like it was last year.
I've already checked it. It's 65 and sunny, so.
Great. Look at that, huh?
Shoot.
Oh, I meant to tell you, there's gonna be free Rita's ice cream for, not just for the children, but for everyone as well. And I hope to see everyone there.
All right.
man.
All right. Well,
That's a good hook.
Thanks again, Sal.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is appointments. Deputy Administrator Vassallo.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have 2 appointments this morning. The first one is for the Planning Commission, and staff is requesting that you appoint Christopher Gadway. Once that appointment is complete, you'll have no vacancies.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to appoint Chris Gadway to the Planning Commission. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, your second appointment is to the Environmental Commission, and staff is requesting that the board appoint Albert Ybarra and Joanne Lutmerding to the Environmental Commission. Following those appointments, you'll have no vacancies.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second that we appoint Albert Ybarra and Joanna Lutwerding. Wait, I'm sorry if I didn't do that right. Both from District 3. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consent. There are 4 items under consent today. Department of Public Works, Linden House Financial Assistance. Item 2, Department of Planning, Zoning, Historic Preservation District Tax Credits TC 2022-02 and TC 2022-04, Hampton Historic District. Item 3, Department of Finance and Budget, FY 2024 Sex Offender Grant Application. And item 4, Capital Projects Grant Agreement submitted by the Board of Education. Is there any objection to the items under consent? Hearing none, those items will be adopted as presented. That takes us to old business. First item under old business, Office of the County Attorney, enhancing transparency through the Public Information Act. Counselor.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. John Norris for the record. We read through the memo. The Board of County Commissioners expressed its wishes to enhance transparency on numerous occasions. It's been recommended that the board consider adoption of local policies and procedures to implement the Maryland Public Information Act to educate the public on local government operations and available resources without unduly burdening the taxpayers. New Chapter 96 for the County Code, which is attached to the memo, outlines the roles and responsibilities of the parties to a request for public records. In October of 2022, the Board of County Commissioners directed that a public survey and solicitation of input from stakeholders be performed before seeking approval to advertise for a public hearing. In coordination with Communications and Media Relations, public input was sought. Direct communications were sent to the Calvert County chapter of the League of Women Voters, the Public Justice Center, the Center for Public Integrity, the ACLU Maryland, and the MDDC Press Association. Public survey was published on the county website and closed on Monday, February 13th, 2023. No substantive comments or feedback have been received. Fiscal impact: no increased financial burden upon taxpayers than currently imposed by state law. Conclusion and recommendation: purpose of this meeting is to authorize and allow staff to proceed to schedule a public hearing on the adoption of Chapter 96 of the Calvert County Code. So very quick presentation to summarize where we have been. Public Information Act is a current state law that allows the public to obtain information regarding the government processes and procedures and what records the government still has on hand. It balances that right with the protection of legitimate governmental interests, that is, in protecting against unsealing documents that would not be in the public's best interest, and the privacy rights of the individuals. To dispel a common misunderstanding, the PIA does not require the creation of a record or a document or the transaction, the interaction, the communication of different ideas that are reflected in the record. It's not a question and answer session. It's for the public to obtain documents. That transparency is at the core of the Public Information Act, but the Act also accounts for the privacy of individuals, public safety, and security. You wouldn't want your password list being subject to a public information request so that people could log into your network or obtain access to your 911 communications as they're happening in real time, or into the investigations into a criminal act or alleged act that might dissuade the public from coming forward in the future and give access to records that should be protected. The importance of transparency is evident through the stated principle that it is presumed public records should be disclosed absent a specific exception in the law, and the exceptions to disclosure are to be narrowly construed in favor of disclosure. So we developed a means using information from all the departments to promote a consistent application of the Public Information Act across all departments. The board has also directed that any efficiencies be provided so that we can go forward and respond to these requests without unnecessary cost or delay. So there's a Chapter 96 that was drafted that we reviewed in 2022. So let's look at it now in 2023. The objectives of the ordinance are to facilitate access to the public when it is allowed by law and minimizing the cost and time delays to the applicant. Taxpayers pay for every minute that a public employee is at work, so we have to recognize that the Public Information Act at the state level gives every individual request 2 hours of search time for free. That's paid for by the taxpayers. Beyond that, it's our duty to recover those costs when it's appropriate. So we have a policy of being proactive first in those documents that are available and commonly requested or made available at the counters, and those that are less often requested are going to be subject to the search time and payment for the search time. So we also have a presentation a little bit later on today from the Office of the County Administrator that will include software program that will include publication of public records to the website. So where there's been one request, a second request is not necessary to get the same information. It'll be available through the website. Now, to balance the burden on the requester and the taxpayer, we talked about the 2 hours. There are waivers available for indigents or where the waiver or reduction is in the public's best interest. The state law does not cover what is in the public's best interest, so we use the direction that came from FOIA, which is the Federal Freedom of Information Act. They publish guidelines in the CFR that we've adopted as part of Chapter 96. Those provisions are to allow the public greater access when the requester has the ability to publish the results and make the public more aware of the governmental process. Next step, we want to take that document to public hearing. So we're asking for the board's approval to advertise for a public hearing, the new Chapter 96.
Mr. President, I move we authorize staff to schedule a public hearing on the adoption of Chapter 96 of the Calvert County Code.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? John, just for a minute, we didn't script this. Could you talk about, a little bit about open meetings law and how we operate here? People, every once in a while we get questions about, well, what you're doing in the back room and, we should be more forward. Could you kind of go through that for general
Sure.
information for those
Sure.
people?
So without, no hands, no script, no documents in front of me, the Open Meetings Act, and fortunately I've taken the training. So the state's Attorney General's office does offer training, and anybody in the public can go to the website and take the training. But the Open Meetings Act requires that the majority of the public's business be conducted in public. There are a few exceptions. One of those is for administrative function. What's odd is that the state law defines administrative function by what it's not by what it is. So administrative function is not a judicial function where the judges, you're hearing a case, either as the Board of County Commissioners where you're hearing a case that presented from personnel, for example, or a quasi-judicial function where you're hearing an appeal of something else. Defines it as not legislative or quasi-legislative when you're adopting an ordinance. So administrative function is one of the areas that's most difficult to define. We also use decisions from the Open Meetings Hearing Board and the circuit courts to help us define what administrative function is. There's one case that came out maybe 7, 8 years ago called Talbot Boys, where there was a discussion in Talbot County by the elected officials about changing a policy on what statutes they present to the public. And it was a statute that I believe might have had some other history to it. But the outcome of that hearing was the Open Meetings Compliance Board say you cannot use administrative function to change policy. You can use administrative function to describe how policy is applied to a specific set of facts, but not to change policy. Then there is another reason to go into closed session. It's called executive session. For executive session, it's required that the public body meet in open session and pass a motion to go into executive session. And there's only 15 bases on which the board or the public body could go into executive session. One of them is for personnel matters. One of them is for real property. One of them is for legal advice. One of them is for pending or threatened litigation. There's one to discuss how to conduct a test. There's another to discuss security. There's another to discuss your IT infrastructure. So there's very narrowly tailored 15 reasons to go into executive session. Can be voted upon, and if they pass, then you can go discuss that in closed session. There's some things that can only be discussed in closed session, but still require that formality of that vote. So if you're violating the Privacy Act, for example, of the individual, their privacy rights, those discussions are supposed to happen in closed session, not to be broadcast to the public. Still requires the formality of a vote to discuss a personnel matter in closed session. Once you're out of closed session, there's a requirement that you tell the public what was discussed, because you can only discuss what you vote to go there and discuss. So we provide that after each meeting where there is a closed session, whether it's admin function, administrative function, or executive session, we provide an update that's published on the county website under the heading of minutes. So where someone would go to watch your video or see your agenda from the past, they will find after the meeting the written statement that's also required under the Open Meetings Act on your website. That applies to most public bodies and is being expanded, not contracted, as we sit here today. Sure.
Can we talk about consent agenda?
Sure.
Some questions we had on that as well.
Sure. So consent agenda was a creation of 51-20, I believe, was the resolution number of the Board of County Commissioners when you adopted your rules of procedure. And it allows items that may not be while they require action by the board, they may not require the time and consideration or reading of the memo that some other items might. It truly is discretionary. It was a means to try and accelerate the approval process so that the board's time was available for work sessions and giving direction on items that might be not necessarily more important, but more public awareness would be more beneficial.
And those items for consent go out ahead of time to all the commissioners, and if there's any issue with those items, they get moved to new business. But generally, those items under consent are sort of, I hate to use the word mundane, but they're grant applications. They're things that don't have any, I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now.
Well, they
to
may be
honest.
repetitive in nature, they may be recurring.
Well, it's
Because
just normal business of running, you know, you're gonna cut grass,
Right.
you know,
'Cause-
what have you.
Because before we had consent, every one of those items, we would have staff or someone come in and talk about, and they're pretty clear cut and gonna move through. So that's the reason consent
Yeah.
was created on the agenda. And as I said, at any point in time, as you hear, I always ask if there's any objection. Any commissioner can object, and we can move that as a regular business item or a work session. So just for those individuals out there, that's the reason we do consent. Not trying to hide anything. And that's why I asked you about, executive session, just so people understand, most of our business is conducted out here. Sometimes it drags, as you see, we do work sessions, and it will drag the process out, because if you have questions and you need additional information, that means you got to schedule another hearing. We try to limit as much as we can the things we do behind closed doors so that people see, and we are as transparent as we can possibly be, so. I'm sorry,
No, that's fine.
but I knew you could answer the question if I asked, so.
And in fact, there's no exact,
You made it to 8, so study those other 7, right?
As long as he didn't lawyer up, we're good.
Yeah, exactly right.
and also when we do the consent, that's why we publish the memo. Everything is still available as though it were a new business item when we do the consent item, so it's still available to the public. And today, we have no executive session, but there is an administrative function to discuss to inform the board how the process works in an instance where policies are already in place and there are no changes being proposed. So that's why that is today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to new business. The first item under new business is Office of the County Administrator, Public Records Request Software. Ashley,
Good morning.
good morning.
Ashley Staples Reed, Special Products Program Manager for the Office of the County Administrator, and I will go ahead and read the memo. So for background, the Maryland Public Information Act, enacted in 1970 and codified in the state government article within the Maryland Annotated Code, gives public access to public documents while safeguarding legitimate state interests and individual citizens' privacy rights, similar to what John Norris was saying in his previous presentation. The PIA grants citizens the right to review the available records that are disclosable to obtain copies of those records. Discussion. The Office of the County Administrator, in coordination with the Office of the County Attorney and the Department of Technology Services, has researched several public records request software in an effort to provide a comprehensive and transparent platform to citizens when submitting a PIA request. Next Request is an all-in-one platform for managing records requests and has been vetted and approved by the Department of Technology Services as meeting the county's security needs. Fiscal impact is $9,087 for services rendered from March 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2024, and will be paid out of the Office of the County Administrator Contracted Services account. Expenses beyond FY24 will be included in the Department of Technology Services budget. Conclusion recommendation is staff request that the Board of County Commissioners authorize the Board President to sign the attached contract on behalf of the Board. Happy to answer any questions.
Mr. President, I make a motion, have the board president sign the attached contract on behalf of the board.
Second. I have a motion and a second that we authorize the president to sign the contract as recommended by staff. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioners.
Ashley.
Thank you.
Next item under new business, Department of Finance and Budget Review of the FY24 Communications and Media Relations Technology Services and Planning and Zoning and Enterprise Funds Fiscal Year 2024 six-year staff recommended CIP. That's a mouthful. And you're here by yourself to do all that?
No. We have lots of people here behind me from the departments to discuss any questions you have on any of these projects.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Here we go. First, I'll read the memo.
Who are you?
I am Veronica Atkinson. Today, I'm Veronica Atkinson, the Capital Projects Analyst with Finance and Budget. Tomorrow could be a different story,
Oh, no, you're going to be Veronica.
probably. Background. The Department of Finance and Budget, Communications and Media Relations, CMR, Technology Services, TS, Planning and Zoning, P&Z, and the Department of Public Works Enterprise Funds, Solid Waste, Water and Sewer, will present their proposed fiscal year FY 2024 six-year capital improvement plan, or CIP, to the Board of County Commissioners. The Department of Finance and Budget reviewed the CIP request for the FY 24 through 29 six-year staff recommended budget for CMR, TS, P&Z general fund request totaling $16,922,612. Additionally, the Department of Finance and Budget reviewed the requests from the enterprise funds, which is solid waste, water, sewer, totaling $106,658,052. The enterprise funds are financially supported by the users of the services. The fiscal impact. The fiscal impact for the general fund for CMR, TS, and P&Z is broken out below. PAYGO is $15,902,612. Debt bond is $0, and grants other is $1,020,000. Fiscal impact on the enterprise funds for solid waste recycling, water, and sewer. The user fees are $2,308,000. Debt for enterprise is $80,050,327. Grants other is $23,049,725. Utility fees, capital connection fees is $1,250,000. The enterprise fund pays back their own debt. This presentation is for informational purposes and will help the Board of County Commissioners for the six-year capital improvement plan cost. The staff seeks the board's direction on the projects. For today, we will focus on the FY24 for the six-year, and the costs are broken down by division. We'll review each project with the project leads that are here in the audience today, and then we will review at the end the FY24 total CIP expenses and revenues. Our first slide is an overview of the FY24 and six-year plans for CMR, which is the Public Broadcast Division. FY24 is $170,000. This is referred to as PEG, which is a Public Educational and Governmental Access Channels. Our next item is Technology Services. For FY24, they were requesting $4,116,484. Planning and Zoning for FY24 is requesting $169,355. This slide reflects enterprise funds, FY24 and six-year plan. Solid waste and recycling is $200,000. Water is $4,260,000. And sewer is $13,733,000. We'll begin review of the projects. Our first project is with Communications and Media Relations and is PEG. For FY '24, it's $170,000, and that is grant other funding money. Do you have any questions?
So that's the money we get back from Comcast, correct?
Yes, sir.
So there's a no expense to county citizens, that's funded
Correct.
through,
It's 100% grant other, so we get it from Comcast.
correct.
Our next item is planning and zoning. Our first project is flood mitigation plan, or FMP. They're asking for $57,506 in FY 2024. Do we have any questions?
So the flood mitigation plan, that's mandated by the state, we have to do that.
Yes, sir.
How about the water quality monitoring, is that a mandate, or is that, we're just doing that?
We'll ask the expert in the audience to please explain that project.
Anywhere you'd like.
Hi, Amalia Fleetam, Planning and Zoning. It is not a mandate.
Okay. Something that we do.
Yes, and significant citizen feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't that amazing, though? Some of the mandates, but water's not important.
Just trying to clarify for the
Yeah, that's the
citizens.
mood I've been in anyway.
I know.
You know, yeah. Don't worry about that water. You don't need that.
I'm sure there's mandates for them too.
There are, we're just not talking about them today.
Correct. Technology Services is our next department. We have Stephen in the audience, if you'd like to stand up and go through your projects.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Stephen
Morning.
Pereira, Director of Technology Services. We have, the first item in the list is Enterprise Systems Implementation. You can see quite a leap in the price. Enterprise Systems Implementation refers to major software systems. So an enterprise software generally crosses multiple departments and has a very large number of users. You can see last year we only had 600,000, and this year we've jumped to 1.7 million. The 1.4 million of that is down to two systems. The first one is water and sewer, which is 825,000. As you're well aware, the current water and sewer system is not up to standard. We're looking to improve it with the new one that will go live next year. The other major component of that is 551,000, which is a continuation of the county, of digitalization of the county records. Initially, when we started this project, we estimated the number of records, and now we have a much more accurate account of the number of records, and we have roughly 7 million county records that we will be digitalizing. This is a major win for citizens because it makes our government more transparent, more accessible, and more accountable.
Stephen, when did we start implementing it? What year was that? It was after, what, 88? Is that correct? When we started computerizing all those records?
I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that one. That was long, long before my time.
Mark knows, I think.
Mark Willis, County Administrator. First of all, I believe Stephen was in high school, maybe, back in the
Maybe.
But also, I would say, to the degree that he's talking about right now, we're literally only a few years old. Now, it doesn't mean that we weren't generating those records, but to the point where we're digitizing them for historical record and day-to-day use is about 3 years old at the level we're doing it today.
Because we go back manually now and look, right? If it's something you're researching.
We can,
yeah,
and that's
so
the 7 million a lot of them are stored electronically by the individual, but they're not stored in a way that we can get to them across the spectrum. This makes it across the spectrum. It makes us available to provide it to the commissioners really at the push of a button.
Yeah, because that was news to me, trying to research something way back, and it's not as simple as pushing a button. You know,
No,
it's
and as part
very
of,
labor intensive.
it is, and as part of this, we are exploring AI options to bring that
Really?
cost down. so that we can automatically index and categorize records from wherever they exist. It will be a major saving. Fingers crossed that's something that we can make work.
I also want to point out the fact that one of the reasons we're doing this, obviously, it's for ease of use, but it's also to take the physical paper that are filling up some of our building spaces and reduce that to zero when we can. We are, in conjunction with the county attorney's office and the state of Maryland, we're very cognizant of how long we have to keep physical records before we dispose of them, whether electronically or physically. And most of that is just identifying that at the state level. But every department here has a responsibility to maintain their own records that is consistent with state requirements. So, but this does make it, it's costly, but when it's done, it'll make this available to all citizens in county alike.
And it would reduce storage costs as well on top of that, so it will, eventually it will pay for itself. The next major component would be Workday Adaptive. That's the $220,000 implementation fee. This is a module that we already own. Workday Adaptive will once again increase government transparency and accountability through interactive dashboards. It will allow forward planning, budgeting, forecasting, advanced data analytics. So we can run things like what-if scenarios, for example. The next part is Workday 1099s. We've got an estimated cost of that of $100,000. That will allow for the generating and filing of 1099s, keeping the county tax compliant, and hopefully it will also improve our payroll processing. The next one down is Geographical Information Systems. We're asking for $120,000. This project follows an established multi-year schedule for updating imagery and planimetric data. This allows for server upgrades, licensing, and a flyover. The flyover collects building footprints, contour lines, LiDAR data, elevation, and more. These images are used by 911, dispatch, fire service, planning and zoning, DPW, and the citizens. And they're a key part of county operations, and they're becoming more and more so. The next one down is network infrastructure. Once again, you can see this one is a little high. So this project funds the infrastructure upgrades required to provide secure and reliable transmission of data between the courthouse campus and remote sites, and to access internet service providers. These include items such as servers, storage, memory, controllers, routers, switches, firewalls, applications, fiber, cabling, and high-speed wireless transmission. So basically the physical layer of our network infrastructure. We have a fiber hub switch replacement, which is $400,000. This will continue a 4-year project to replace the 10-year-old core switches and fiber hubs. These switches manage all the fiber traffic throughout the county. The entire project will span 4 years, and with one core fiber hub switch replaced each year. The core switch at Windy Hill will be replaced in year 2 of this project. This is a project that we share with the school board. The next part of this is $200,000. That is for storage and memory. This will increase our capacity to store data and the processing power of our servers. Data volume is rapidly increasing, and so must our ability to store that data and access it. Another large component of that is $550,000. That is used for the new building infrastructure. This is core router replacement and data center funding. Total project is estimated to come in at $2.2 million. This is the last year that we're requesting funds for this. These funds are needed to provide the technology infrastructure in the county administration, in the new county administration building. They're not for fiber or cabling. We are timing this to coincide with the new building, but these replacements are required regardless of their location. So if we decide not to go ahead with the new cab building, we will still need to replace the core routers. The next section is $250,000. That is for new building security. That is to go into the cab, and that is for access control and security cameras. We've also added back in $300,000 from last year. Last year we took out $300,000 for our fiber and wireless projects. This was cut because we anticipated filling this gap with funds from the infrastructure bill. These funds were distributed to broadband for the underserved citizens in the last mile. And as a result, we still need to push ahead with that project. This project will connect numerous county locations, the convenience centres, as well as several parks and rec facilities. We currently have workarounds in place, but as we want better connectivity, a system that's more reliable, able to support access control, cameras, and other advanced technologies such as auditing, we need to improve our fiber and wireless backbone. The next one is the phone system upgrade. We're asking for $250,000 for that. That is to replace that is for a core server upgrade. This project is to deploy VoIP phones at all county facilities and to provide major server upgrades in the annex and the sheriff's office. The last part is public safety. We're asking for $200,000 and a total request of $2 million. This project funds the implementation and upgrade of various systems used throughout the public safety and law enforcement system. This $200,000 will be spent specifically on a CAD upgrade, and which will be funded over 2 years. And that's it. Any questions?
So Stephen, if you wouldn't mind, could you provide a breakdown for the enterprise, the two big ones, the enterprise system implementation and the network infrastructure? Could you you just gave us a verbal breakdown of
Sure.
that money. Could you provide us a written breakdown of that?
Yeah, no problem at
It's a
all.
little hard to keep track of.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So CMR, Technology Services, and Planning and Zoning are all part of the general fund. Their FY24 total is $4,455,839. Our next part of the presentation will be for enterprise funds. Solid waste, recycling, and water. As you know, recycling enterprise funds are self-supported, and we have someone here from DPW to talk us through these projects.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Emily Matthews, and I'm a project engineer with solid waste and with water CIP projects. Going through our projects for 2024, we have our recycling material storage and processing building. And this is a material storage and processing building. We're either looking at a fabric tarp storage building or rehabbing the old salt barn and putting a mini MRF in it, which is a material recovery facility. We are planning on doing the design, funding the design in 2024, and then the construction in 2025. And then a new project that we have on the list for 2024 is the Solid Waste Center Improvement Project. And this project, we're intending it to be similar to some projects that we have in water and sewer for like pump station improvements and small water main improvements, but this would be for solid waste center improvements. So it would be for general repairs and upgrades to our convenience centers and landfills. It would be to do some small projects that would enhance the customer experience, improve safety, and increase efficiency. Planned for 2024, we have some concrete work at Plum Point, and then the purchase of some new compactors and boxes.
So you said this is a new line item?
The, yeah, it is gonna be a new project.
So how'd you cover those repairs in the past?
I'll have to ask James. Any left?
So while we're waiting on him, I have a question
Yeah.
about the compactors. I noticed Plum Point has a smaller compactor now than it was there previously. Is there a reason for that? I mean, to me, it seems like more trips back and forth.
Where at?
Plum Point.
At Plum Point. Again, we're gonna have to ask James.
Looks like, do you want to go
Yeah,
ahead?
I'll
Yeah,
go,
you can
I'll
keep
go, I'll
going.
go on to
Yeah,
water.
keep going.
Onto the water projects. For water projects, a project that we have going for design in 2024 is the Cavalier Country Water Distribution System Replacement Project. And this project is going to be a full replacement of the water distribution lines and add some water valves in the Cavalier Country system. It's an aging system. We're doing a similar project right now in design for Chesapeake Heights. And this one will be applying for MDE funding. Then the small water main replacement project is again a similar project that we do every year. It's for doing replacements throughout the system that are small projects. Then we have the water main replacement and upgrade project. We are asking for $4 million in fiscal year 2024. And this is a project that we're changing our system completely over to, we're changing our system completely over to AMI. And this will be a one-time project where we're going to be putting in the infrastructure and replacing the meters. And then we'll be on a maintenance project with the AMI company. So this is it will be about an 18-month-long project. Then the water station improvement project, it's $160,000 for fiscal year 2024. And this is for project for miscellaneous repairs and upgrades to our water stations. So in the 2024, we're going to be doing some roof replacements and 3 station rehabs. They had some solid waste questions.
Sorry. James Ritter, Deputy Director for Enterprise Funds.
So my question was, there's a new line item for waste center improvements. How'd you pay for those improvements previously?
Previously, they were minor improvements that were funded through our operating budget and solid waste. So what we're looking at is our facilities are beginning to age, so we need to do some greater maintenance, larger maintenance projects, then including large equipment replacements and minor facility upgrades.
Okay.
So they mentioned talking about buying compactors and that as well, and I just had a question that came up. The Plum Point compactor, I noticed it's much smaller than the previous one, and I guess that's more trips, and I just didn't know where that came from.
Correct. So we are in the process, we have to do some facility upgrades there, replace some concrete to put in a larger non-self-contained compactor, which will allow us to increase the volume there. So we currently have a smaller compactor.
So it's temporary?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So the water meter replacements, I know you've been replacing, you're always replacing water meters, but this is to replace all of them with the new technology?
Yes, to move from AMR, current technology, to an AMI, which will allow us to read the meters daily, and as well as share that information out to our customers. So we're looking at replacing all of our residential meters and a fair amount of our larger commercial meters.
So is this new technology or has something been around and?
It has been around for a while, over a decade. So we're currently looking to transition to that so that we can provide the best available technology.
So instead of just going out and replacing them all, you wouldn't just phase them in? I mean, that doesn't work.
It will be a phased project, so we're not going to replace them all at one time. It'll take us between 15 to 18 months to complete the project.
I'm just thinking about some of these meters you just replaced, you're gonna go out in another year and replace them again, just.
Yep. We are able, the big difference is that the newer AMI technology introduces an antenna to the meter, so that antenna is what allow it to communicate out. So some of the newer meters and things like subtraction meters will continue to be in place, and we'll be able to utilize the antenna and connect that to our existing meter to provide the data.
So then I think SMECO, they use that technology on their meters,
Correct.
but they still manually read them every once in a while just to check.
They'll do field verifications, or if they don't get a read on a meter or the read looks erroneous, they will do a manual read on the meter just to check the accuracy of it.
So the same thing would happen here.
Yes.
So would this negate your need for, right now somebody's driving around using a laptop to read the meters?
Correct. We have 3 staff members that will drive around during meter reading to collect the data and read that meter using a radio frequency back to their vehicle to capture the data. So it will eliminate the need for that. We'll also be able to read the meters from within the office any day and get a daily reading of the meter.
So what are the meter readers going to do when you change over to this technology?
So when they're not reading meters, they also do customer service. So we'll be able to increase our customer service. That they will then transition to doing technical support for the AMI system, so ensure that the system's working, and doing those field verification readings similar like SMECO does.
So you're going to see a reduction in staffing?
No. We're just going to shift those hours that will be allotted to meter reading and move that to perform other tasks.
Because I have a question as well, if I'm reading it right, $4 million?
Yes.
So we've already put money into a lot of new meters, and then we're gonna do $4 million on top of that, but we're not reducing any staffing hours. I mean, what do we gain?
So it'll increase the resolution of the data that we're getting. So we'll be able to read meters every day. It'll also allow us to enhance our customer outreach, so the customer will be able to view their consumption daily, as well as receiving alerts related to their consumption or if they have a potential leak. So it's
Were they gonna go online to see that? Is that what they would do?
Correct, through a web portal or an app on their phone. So it'll provide that, and part of that funding is not just for the meter, but also put in the backbone or the antennas that will talk to the meters to collect that data.
And so not being Mr. Negative, but you spend $4 million on software, always seems like it needs upgrades, and it needs this, and it needs that. So if, a lot of times I was always explaining, because I'm not technology savvy at all, but technology goes in to reduce labor. So this doesn't reduce labor, and then we put this $4 million in, and then there's going to be expense to it. I mean, this $4 million, this software is not going to be for eternity.
Correct.
So now we've created a system now that's going to constantly need even more funding to it. I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, it makes it maybe more efficient to read something, but economically, is the juice worth the squeeze? I mean, $4 million, we don't do that much I mean, it's a small system. I mean, we're talking 5,300 customers? I mean, if you break that down on return on investment, 5,300 and $4 million and add more and more to it, why?
Is it 5,300?
Is that right?
56.
Yes.
Okay, so 5,600 customers, $4 million. I mean, I don't have a calculator to break that down, what that is per person, but, or per customer, however that's done. But, it's a lot. And I mean, is 4 million just, I mean, is that, we write that check and it's done?
So the $4 million covers the software cost and the maintenance during the agreement. So once we pay for that, if there is an issue with the meters or the technology to support those meters, that's covered under the agreement. So the vendor is responsible to replace that.
For how long?
For the term of the agreement.
Which
So,
is?
5 years right now. We're looking to move to a 20-year agreement.
So you spend it the one time, $4 million, and they, no matter what happens, they take care of all the software, the new meters, everything. They service it the whole nine for a one-time buy, $4 million.
Yes, that's the cost of the project. And it's similar, Queen Anne County is in the process of completing a similar project. So we've been looking at Queen Anne to see how it worked for them and what they did. That's what drove us to where we are.
And if there's new permits that come in, just like currently they'll buy a new meter, they would be buying these new meters. So there will be potential new meters, but they will be from new customers.
And they buy those?
And they buy them as part of the permitting process.
See, that makes a little more sense to me. Sorry. than to go out and just go through and replace every single one.
What are you gonna do with all those old ones? What are you gonna do with 5,600 of them? Throw
They
them in
have no-
trash?
They have no value.
Scrap. So there are brass meters, so we typically scrap those and receive scrap value for those.
I mean, I mean, back to Commissioner Hanson saying, how old are some of them? Gotta be less than a year.
Yes, there's probably some new ones that have been done within a year. Our average meter age right now is 3 to 5 years.
So would it harm us to wait a couple years?
What's the life of a meter? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we're just throwing questions
Ten,
at you.
10 years, so a meter life is designed
About
for
10
10
years.
years, yes.
I don't know, it just seems like with all the budget things we got going on, that we got perfectly good meters that we just bought to, I mean, I get it, I'm sure this is the latest, greatest, and touch of a button technology, but, I mean, I don't know, I mean, buying a piece of equipment and then going, you know what, there's a better one next year, it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Is the 20-year maintenance agreement included in the 4 million?
No.
No.
No, it's not.
Is there any maintenance agreement included in the 4 million?
Yes.
For
5 years.
5 years?
Correct.
So then after 5 years, we'd be paying.
Right. But if you did the 20, it would add additional cost. I don't know.
We're still determining that with the vendor and the
Yeah.
county attorney.
Yeah.
So it's about $715 per user. If you're looking at it.
Yeah.
And you would keep buying meters every time the 10-year expiration is up.
Right.
Yeah, but you got brand new ones now. Right? So,
Some.
some.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
So to go back to Cavalier Country, how old is that system, and have we done any replacement of that at all?
In Cavalier, we've done minimal replacement. We've done some repairs in that system. In the records we have, if I remember correctly, that system was put in 1972.
Yeah. It's almost as old as me.
Almost.
Probably not even close, but. So what is this system, I'm sorry, we digress. What is the life expectancy of a system like that? When they put that in 72, how long did they project it would last?
So typical distribution systems are put in with life expectancy of between 25 to 50 years, depending on the materials selected. So in the 70s, there was several different technologies that were used. Current technologies, newer systems, putting in things like plastic pipe, greatly extend the life of a distribution system, as well as some of those materials that were used have effects on the water quality, just from degradation of the material.
Yeah. Because like the old Terra pipe they were using septic systems, I don't know what the life expectancy of that was, but now it's all collapsing and people have to go in and replace it.
Yes, and we have some of the same issues. In Prince Frederick, we have terracotta piping that we have the same issues. We chase.
Is that what was in the street that a couple of years ago?
That was a cement pipe
Oh,
on Main Street. Yeah, that was a cement pipe. And the problem with cement pipe in sewer is that in sewer, it releases what's called hydrogen sulfide. And when that gas mixes with moisture, it forms an acid. And that acid is what eats away at that concrete pipe.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to do this one? Our next slide is a review of sewer and wastewater projects. Chris is going to come up.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Chris Hall, Water and Sewer.
Can you see it?
Okay, first we have the biosolids processing and disposal. To replace aging sludge presses at Prince Frederick Treatment Plant Number 2 and Solomon's Wastewater Treatment Plant. To support proposed biosolids disposal facility. Thermal drying is being implemented rather than bio-drying to save cost. Also, thermal drying will be developed first, followed by pyrolysis.
So you're going to do that at Prince Frederick and Solomon's?
That part is just going to be at Solomon's. The new sludge presses will go at both plants, and then the sludge will be transported to Solomon's.
Wasn't there a grant for Solomon's for this? Or no?
I believe.
I thought Solomon's got a grant to upgrade.
Yeah, we had received grant funding to upgrade the facility to ENR. And that project was deferred. We haven't received any funding yet for biosolids.
Okay.
So it shows 3 fiscal years, significant amounts of money. Are they different projects, or is this, we're starting and this is just a continuous?
Continual project.
Phasing of it, yes.
So it's 18, $20 million.
Right, and we're currently, we produce a raw sludge that is landfill, and we're looking at a process to move to produce a Class A sludge, which can be land applied or used as a soil.
Oh, this is, we've been talking about this for a couple of years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the light bulb goes off. And this, right, because you're talking about a central facility where you take it in, process it to have it in a usable form.
Yes. And if we can get to the pyrolysis, then the manufacturer will take most of it for free. And actually, profit share, I think it was 10.
Yeah, we receive 10% profit share
10%
on
of
the
their
final
profit for it, yeah. So
And
right
this-
now, we pay lots and lots of money to get rid of it.
Yeah. So is this for pellets or?
So we're
com-
looking at, we had looked at a couple different options as part of our study. Right now, we're looking at using a paralysis process, which is where we produce a biochar. One of the drivers for that is that there's increased push and regulation for PFAS destruction in sludges, and paralysis is one of the processes that have been tested and verified by the EPA to destroy PFAS in sludges.
I hadn't heard that before.
Me either.
Yes. So we've been, the technology we're looking at, they're in the process of doing installation on a facility in Pennsylvania, and they've had a facility operating in California for about 5 years now, where they performed a pilot to gain air quality standards in California as well as from the EPA.
So I thought you said you haven't decided yet which path you're going to take.
Well, so originally, we were looking at bio-drying. This is the step before the pyrolysis. But that was just gonna be, we needed gas for that. We needed a pipeline run to the plant, and it was just gonna add too much to the cost. So we decided to go with thermal drying, which takes up less space and costs less.
We have to dewater the sludge and then dry it, and then we can feed it to a paralysis unit.
So the proposal in front of us is to do that,
Correct.
which would remove the PFAS.
Yes.
Which is, and put it in a usable form.
Correct.
Because the survey I did was, based on can agricultural use the product and blah, blah, blah. So is this an agricultural use product when you get done with it?
Yes, and the biochar is actually used in agricultural uses. They produce inks and dyes with it. It's used to produce plastics. So, and also into the building industry. It's used as an aggregate mix in concrete as well as asphalt shingles. So it has several markets it can go into, and that's where the cost sharing comes back in, because depending on what market it goes to depends on the profitability of the final product.
And this project will take care of Solomon's and Prince Frederick
All of our
Yes.
facilities.
And Marley Run also.
and Marley Run. And you're going to truck from the 2 locations to the central location.
Yes. Yeah, just like we do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure everybody understands. And then when you're done, you've got an agreement with the company that's going to deal with the byproduct.
Yes, and that is, once it's in the pyrolysis state, even if we weren't able to get it to the pyrolysis state, it would still be Class A. So it would still be very good usable sludge.
And that gets rid of us having to land apply it. through the-
Landfill it. Currently, our sludges are landfilled.
Oh, is that right? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
We don't meet the regulatory requirement to land apply our sludges.
So the 10%, have you all done a projection on that to see what?
I think that, no, we have no idea how much we could possibly get back. I think the big thing to us is that we don't have to pay anything. What is it we paid, 90?
Yeah, we're at $97 a ton.
A ton right now.
For hauling our sludge.
So annually, what does that amount to?
We spend roughly $500,000.
And what's the life of this?
25 years is life expectancy for the equipment.
So once you spend the 18 million, you shouldn't have significant costs for 20 years?
Right.
Correct. As part of the study where they did the surveys, we had a 25-year and a 50-year O&M life cycle cost analysis done to identify what those expected costs would be. Comparing all the variable options to continue doing what we're doing.
So based on your projections, you may get back half your cost through your business agreement.
Yes,
But we have to do something.
correct.
We can't keep
Correct.
Can't keep doing what we're doing.
landfilling what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I like the aspect that we're not using land. Right. It's not sustainable.
Right.
I mean, and obviously with all systems, it's maintenance. Is this gonna require you coming back next year saying, I need 2 technicians for this system? Every time we touch something, all of a sudden here comes the labor, you know? So I see this 18-2, but what else is out there? You know, because there's always what else. It's not so simple as that, and I appreciate some of it back, but what, is it some specialist that's a 6-figure specialist? Is it something that, you know what I mean?
Trucks.
You know, what's it gonna cost?
I would think none of that would come into play unless we became huge. Like if everybody around here started bringing their sludge to us to process, then we would probably need to hire a couple more people, but at that point, it would be
So you do this with the folks you got on hand right now?
Yes. Correct.
So that, you bring up another question, capacity. What's the capacity of what you're projecting to do?
Right now, the equipment we're looking at is 3,500 tons a year.
And what do we need?
Right now, we're producing between 2,500 and 3,000 tons per year.
So this is just gonna take care of us?
Yes, and the equipment is scalable and modular. So if we did expand or we need additional capacity, it can be easily retrofitted.
So is there, okay, I'm always trying to make some money here. Is there an opportunity, we provide a service to somebody else
There's always the potential, yes.
and generate some revenue? But you don't have that built into this?
Not in this cost, no.
And since this is an enterprise fund, the users are paying the cost.
Correct.
But if we wanted to create a profit center, that might be outside of that?
Yes, we would charge a tipping fee probably to bring that in. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm thinking of upfront funding. The users aren't gonna be too excited about having to fund, double cost, even if there is a rainbow at the end.
Not including the 4 million on the previous thing. You start adding up all these things to the enterprise fund, and what's that bill gonna look like?
Yeah, and so that does not include any grant applications we make, so we always apply for state revolving fund. We're also looking at energy reduction grants to help offset some of that initial cost.
So when the infamous, I hate to even say it, pipeline came up, there was discussion that MDE was willing to cover a significant amount of that cost. Is there an opportunity for MDE to cover?
Yes, we always apply for a state revolving fund, which is where those funds would come from. And then MDE also offers energy efficiency grants that we would apply for as well, to cover the cost of the equipment and the technology purchases. So,
And the likelihood of getting those grants, and what would those grants look like? Just a guess.
I don't want to
No history.
It wouldn't be 18 million.
No,
You
no.
know.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I didn't know if you had any history from other people doing projects like this, and if there's an MDE guide.
Anne Arundel received, I believe it was over $1 million for a energy efficiency project to replace some of their presses. So a similar project that they were awarded a fair amount of money for that.
So out of 18 million, they came up with $1 million.
I'm not sure what the cost of their.
That's what I'm trying to
project
get in my head. Is there some guidance that you've seen through history that they put up 10% or 20% or, for the infamous pipeline, I heard 50%, so.
It depends on how the project would rank in the overall scoring against everyone else who submitted.
You would think if we're gonna remove PFAS and eliminate some landfilling, there'd be significant interest.
It should score well. It, like James said, though, it depends on, you never know what anybody else in the state is gonna be applying for and what kind of projects maybe they like more. it comes down to what they like the best, kind of.
I mean, just my 20% before we even breathe about pulling the trigger on some of these things, better get some real cost, real consumer cost. You know, it's a lot easy to sit up here and say this is the new thing, but if I ain't paying for it, you know what I'm saying? So,
And I'm sorry, and you may have said it already, the technology is how old?
The paralysis, the bio-dry units we were looking at are new to the U.S. They've been in California for about 5 years. The paralysis units have been in operation in Europe for over a decade.
Okay. So it's not brand new.
Yeah, it's
Something
probably
that we
great
get
stuff.
into and then it doesn't
Just
work.
More new here, yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably great stuff, and, you know, and like all that stuff is, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to pay for it.
Right.
And so, you know, that we be very mindful of how that money's generated. And, you know, well before we pull that trigger, we need to know what that looks like on paper. Real dollars, whether it's consumer, county government, what have you.
And if you did want to do expansion beyond what you've proposed, some preliminary work of I don't want you to expend a lot of time, but, you know, you're going to put this facility at Lusby?
At our Solomon's plant, yes, in Lisbon.
Because there's plenty of room there, right?
Yes, we have a lot of room. That's currently where we handle all the logistics of our sludges now.
Right. I guess my question is to expand the plant, is it something it's easy to add on to, or is it something that you got to do from the get-go?
The biosolids process is easy to add on to.
Okay.
Yes.
Both
Okay.
steps of it are easy
Okay.
to add on to, yeah.
So we get it up and, if we do it, we get it up and running, make sure everything's fine, and then if we investigate and there is some opportunity to generate some revenue, like we do with the, you know, the
We do it at the
trash.
landfill now, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, we're
Right.
collecting trash for everybody, and then it gets hauled out. So I'm just trying to look ahead at a way to generate some revenue
yeah.
for a project that we're gonna do. And
Absolutely.
instead of somebody duplicating it right across the bridge, it
Right.
might be cost effective for
Right.
them, just like the tipping station or whatever I'm sorry, it just doesn't come to mind what you call it. The transfer station.
Yes.
Just like the transfer station, I'm just trying to think the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we generate some revenue to help save some costs for our people,
Yeah.
you know.
And James, years ago when Rye, you know, come up with the convenience center down there in Lusby, he had talked about, same thing Commissioner Hans talking about, that it would end up paying for itself. Have we seen that happen? Have we seen it generate the money to, I mean, it's a great facility and it was needed, but he had talked about, you know, that there would be a funding source potentially there. Did that ever come?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay, please.
Yes.
Commissioners, back when that transfer station or convenience center was designed, it was really designed to pull the existing convenience center out of the center of Lusby. But it was also, we were looking to put one at the landfill in addition to the one.
Right.
And instead of doing that, we just.
Right, we'd have had three, right.
We would have had three. So we ended up
Right.
with one major site. I don't know that it was ever designed to pay for itself because it's just more convenient. What it did was it allowed multiple types of refuge, whether it was recycling or family household waste, et cetera, to be disposed of. It did it very conveniently. It did it safely because it separated the commercial traffic from the residential traffic. They never come into contact with one another, meaning the trucks that are hauling off the boxes.
And I remember, yeah, I remember because we had outsourced, and I believe we still do, right? The one part of that facility for some of that trash or what have you. The part where you go over, you gotta wear the hard hats and all that stuff over there.
So that's the tipping floor where you can go in large quantities and you can tip right on the tipping
Yeah,
floor. And
that generates an income, correct?
Right, because there's a tipping fee per ton that comes in, and both residential and commercial can go in there and dump with permit. But there are three, soon to be hopefully, three of these convenience centers like you're talking about in Lusby. One is in the middle of the county, one is in Lusby, and then the other one will be at Barstow, or I should say one in the fairly north. And then one is Barstow when they upgrade it, and they'll all look like the one pretty much like in Lusby. They're not paying for themselves.
Okay.
They're efficient, they're safe, and, you know, they're paying dividends in customer service and ease of disposing of trash, but they're not paying for themselves.
Okay, I didn't know-
Recycling never pays for itself.
Okay.
It's environmentally friendly, but it does not pay for itself.
Okay.
And these sites are set up to take as much recycling as possible.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember, like I say, it was so long ago, I couldn't remember, if there was any funding opportunity out of there or not. Like I said, I remember the eliminating of the 3 to 1, but I just couldn't remember past that.
Okay, we can move on.
Okay, next we have, we're asking for 1 million in FY '24 for Prince Frederick Wastewater Treatment Plant Number 1 upgrade. We're currently studying potential effluent disposal sites regarding suitability for ribs and spray irrigation. RIB stands for Rapid Infiltration Basin, just to be clear. Treatment level for plant design will be determined based on the outcome of this study. If we end up using the ribs, we'll have to go to ENR, enhanced nutrient removal. And if we continue spraying, we will only have to upgrade to BNR, which will be a little cheaper, but I think we get more grant money for ENR. Previously approved for $21,860,454.
The state revolving fund.
Loan FY 2019. Funding was withdrawn while county explored suitable effluent disposal solutions for increasing demand. BNR and ENR are both expected to be approved for a loan based on previous approval and will qualify to receive grant funding. Next up, we have $100,000 in FY '24 for Solomon's pump station improvements. This is a ongoing project that we have for our wastewater pump stations in Solomon's. It covers general repairs and upgrades to address most urgent operational needs, code compliance, and safety. Next, we're asking $200,000 for Prince Frederick pump station improvements, which is exactly the same thing. It's just for the Prince Frederick area. We happen to have 2 of these.
So is that plant twice as big?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is the Prince Frederick plant twice as big as the Solomon's plant since the
Well-
upgrades are twice as much?
Well, no, this is just for pump stations, the sewage pumping stations throughout Prince Frederick, and
Oh, that's right. Okay.
we actually
Gotcha.
use it for the northern area, the couple pump stations we have in the northern area too. Just general repairs and upgrades. Next one is we're asking $4 million for Solomon's Island wastewater treatment plant enhanced nutrient removal ENR upgrade.
There is MDE grants for that, correct?
Yes, I do believe so. Yes. This is to replace failing and undersized process components, the reactors, the leachate pretreatment building, and the septage pretreatment.
So what's the grant from MDE for those?
Yep. So we had previously received $13 million. We have to reapply during the next grant phase.
But generally, what are they
So
for the 4 million?
Yeah, ENR related projects are eligible to receive 100% funding.
Okay.
So guys, I know we're doing 24, but when I look this extended all the way out, $38 million. We building a new facility?
Yeah, so,
Yes.
yes.
I mean, but see, you see upgrade, and I don't go back into all these past discussions, but, and this has nothing to do with what you guys do, but when we hear all this, building, and putting more on the system, that's what the price tag starts to look like. Now, I don't know off the top of your head what the capacity you are at right now, but there's already existing situations in the future could happen, failed systems, this, that, and the other. So, you know, when everybody gets talking about, you know, hook up, well, I'm looking at $38 million right there. And with that, if that was to happen, what capacity could you hold? I mean, could you, is that just for the customers you have today? Or is that 50% more customers? I mean, it's a big price tag.
Yeah, so part of that depends on what the discharge technology will be. So as Chris talked about, it's rapid infiltration basins or spray fields, depends on ENR or BNR technology. So there's the cost to separate those two. And then for the Prince Frederick plant, if I remember correctly, that upgrade would increase the facility to be able to handle 1.099.
Yes.
1.099 million gallons per day.
And how much do you need to do now?
Right now, the facility is designed at 450,000.
So why the need for so much more?
To look at taking one of the facilities offline, so Prince Frederick number 2, and transition all that to a newer facility that will handle it at better technology and have better discharge area.
But that's no growth, correct? That's maintaining existing customers.
Yes, because between those two, we do 750,000 gallons per day is what we're permitted at.
And that's where I'm driving, where everybody thinks, okay, it's no big deal, it's 500 units, it's 1,000 units. No, it is a real big deal because stop me if I'm wrong, please, you're only talking about handling what we're looking at today.
Correct. Yes.
So you start bouncing some of these numbers, I mean, there's 24 million there, you slide down to Solomon's, 38 million there, we got $62 million
Yes.
to handle today.
Correct.
On a budget last year that was 341. I mean, granted, you're borrowing this money or enterprise funds or what have you, but it's still money that has to come back. You know, when everybody gets this build mentality, it's not sustainable because we don't have the infrastructure. Talking to you folks today, correct?
Right. This upgrade, as an ENR upgrade, is eligible and very likely to receive grant funding also.
Yeah, but how much?
Well, that's,
You getting 100%?
So the ENR projects are eligible to 100% funding of the ENR part of the project.
Right, but if you had to look at that 24 million, how much is that 24 million? You don't, right, not even close. And grant is always nice to say during budget time, oh, you got a grant. So folks go, oh, we won't have to pay for it. Wrong. You know, it's never the full cost, very rarely, I should say, the full cost of the project and all the labor and everything else that comes with it. So that's just, you know, people wonder why my hard stance on some of this stuff is this is a key indicator because it's great. You walk into your new place, you got to flush that toilet, you got to run laundry, you know, run showers. Where's it going? So, you know, these are some of the price tags just to handle where we're at today. I mean, what happens if all of a sudden a new board would come in here, say that was build crazy and threw 5,000, 10,000 units across the board and all these plants were in place, would it be obsolete?
A facility wouldn't be obsolete, it can always be.
But you'd have to expand, and
yes,
would you
it
be
would
able to?
It depends on, so since we can only do groundwater discharge, it depends on available capacity of the area where we can discharge.
Some of these I know the answers to, I just want to hear you guys say it. Right. So when that conversation comes up again, I'm hoping people paying attention, so thanks, guys.
Commissioners, one item to point out about those grants is those grants are actually paid to the state of Maryland from your citizens.
Oh, sure, it's all tax
Bay
dollars.
restoration funding
yeah.
that they're paying in, that they're just getting back.
Right, it's just trying to get some of that money back from the state. Yep, absolutely. Every dime is always generated from taxpayers.
The rain tax.
Yeah. I know. I tell people how you called me out on that. You weren't wrong.
So the Solomon's WWTP, that's actually Sweetwater, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And the Solomon's force main upgrade, where's that? Is that at the bridge?
So that, the Solomon's WWTP got that name because that facility was originally designed for the flow from Solomon. So under the bridge is a large pumping station, and that pump station pumps to that Solomon's facility.
So the 600,000 for improvements is for actually the one at the bridge?
Yes.
And the 474 is for where? For the pump station improvement and then the force main upgrade? Is that part of the same plant?
Oh, you're way up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the 474 for the pump station improvements, that's for the pump stations in the, you're on the force main, I'm sorry.
The force main.
The force main project is to upgrade that force main that runs, that 5-mile force main that runs from under the bridge to the plant.
To Sweetwater?
To
Correct.
Sweetwater,
Okay,
right.
all right.
Yes, sorry.
Just trying to put it all together. Why isn't that called Lusby or Sweetwater?
It was because that facility was originally named to handle that large main pumping station by the bridge. So that's Solomon's Headworks, where that used to be the headworks for that treatment plant. And then as Lusby developed, that was connected, and the plant was already there.
Okay. And going back to the PFAS testing you were talking about with,
The biosolids.
yes, where was that tested? California and Europe, is that what you were saying?
Yes, California, they've been running the testing at a Silicon Valley facility for a couple years.
Okay. Thanks.
And Everett, Pennsylvania is in the process of constructing a similar facility.
Moving along.
Next up, we have 33,000 grinder pump replacement. This is to repair and replace only the grinders the county is responsible for as they are identified.
I don't mean to laugh, I just, you remember that whole fiasco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where else do we have them? We have them in Dare's Beach and
Solomon's.
Solomon's. Okay.
And a few in the northern part, not
Right.
many.
And we are trying to revamp that system and
Yes, we're looking at what our current capacity is with that, what the age of those are, and kind of figuring out what the true cost is.
okay.
All right, just a couple more. We're asking $3 million for Solomon's wastewater treatment plant septage receiving upgrade. The existing septage receiving station is outdated, beyond repair, and inadequate to handle existing demand. A new facility would be constructed which will increase receiving capacity, have the ability to unload 2 trucks concurrently, and allow customers to pay on-site with credit cards. Potential stormwater design issue currently delaying approval of the design. Fluvio-marine soils have become acidic when exposed to air. The acidity can corrode the concrete structures related to the basin. I don't know why it's not really necessary.
How old's that facility?
It was put in 1994, if I remember correctly. And that's what, it was originally designed for a much smaller volume of trucks. Currently, we receive on average 25 trucks per day of septage that come in, and the original facility was designed for about 5.
You've been talking about this for a while, haven't you?
Yes, we've been
Asking?
in design for it for a little bit.
All right, next one, $200,000 for supervisory control and data acquisition, which is SCADA. It's how we receive our data.
It allows us to remotely monitor all our facilities. So Water and
Right.
Sewer has 76 facilities that we monitor. So this allows us to have real-time insight into what is happening at the facility. So how much our pumps are running, what our flows are, what levels may be. And then it provides alarming, so that if there is an issue at a facility, we receive alarming to let us know.
So how are you doing that now?
With an older system. So this project is to upgrade that system to provide us with more control. One of the issues we have now is that we don't have full control of the facilities remotely, so we can receive alarming. So the newer system would allow us to have more finite control of facilities, to be able to make adjustments without actually having to go to a remote facility.
So now if you have an issue, somebody's got to drive there and take an action. And with this system, you can do that from a central office?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be done remotely through an app on a phone or a web portal as well.
All right, and last but not least, $200,000 for the sewer collection system rehabilitation. This is for routine rehabilitation of the sewer system throughout the county.
What does that mean?
So we have been inspecting our sewer infrastructure and doing lining projects, rehab projects, doing replacements of sections of lines where it's warranted, going through and rehabilitating manholes and sealing those so to prevent things like I&I into the collection system, as well as rehab some of the older sections of the collection systems.
So you're showing here it's 200,000 forever. Previously, it's been, what's it been?
We've had a couple of smaller projects to address problem areas or hot spots, but as our system's aging, we're having to be more proactive about the system as a whole, systems as a whole. We most recently had a lining project for a section in Solomon's where we did from about the Oyster House down to Charles Street, and relined all that sewer and rehabbed 15 manholes.
I think we're good.
That's all for
Thank
us.
you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and to wrap up our presentation, here's a overview of the expenditure and revenue summary for FY 2024. For general fund, we're at $62,732,184. And with enterprise funds, we're at $18,193,000. Again, that's just for FY 2024. So we have one more next week, transportation.
Yay,
Yay, and then I'm done.
until next year.
Yep, until next year. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that brings us to item 3 under new business, Department of Community Resources, Calvert County Family Network Community Support Budget Adjustment 221. Good morning, Director.
Good morning.
It's still morning.
Jennifer Moreland, Director of Community Resources. I'll just run through this memo. Calvert County Family Network Support Budget Adjustment. Background. The Calvert County Family Network, CCFN, is Calvert County's local management board. CCFN oversees, on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, multiple programs supported through funding provided by the Governor's Office of Crime Control, Victim, and Youth Services, which we'll call the Office, through the Children's Cabinet Interagency Fund, CCIF. Discussion. As part of their fiscal year 2023 grant award from the office, CCFN received $98,701 in funding. This is $88,281 more than what was included in their FY23 adopted budget. The local management board voted to spend the funds on community support funding for early childhood providers, including memberships to the Maryland State Child Care Association, conscious discipline training for their staff, supplies, materials to support emotional early learning activities, and a mini grant for the annual Family Child Care Conference based in Calvert County, which is actually this weekend. Fiscal impact. The increased grant award will have a positive impact of $88,281. Conclusion recommendation. Staff requests the board approve budget adjustment BA 221 to increase the budget for the actual award.
Questions?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We approve budget adjustment number BA 221 to increase the budget for the actual award.
Second.
Have a motion and a second that we approve budget adjustment BA 221. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you,
Thank
Director.
you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 4, Department of Planning and Zoning, Certified Local Government FY 2023 Training and Education and Project Grant Applications. Morning.
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 Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Sperling, Planning and Zoning. I'm here in regards to the grant applications. As a certified local government, Calvert County is eligible to apply for federal funds through the CLG program administered by the Maryland Historical Trust. The two available grants are a project grant and a training and education grant. Calvert County has been awarded project grants totaling approximately $300,000 through this program. The grant maker advises a cash match of 15% for the project grant, but does not require a cash match. The county's match consists of funds in the Historic District Commission budget, past supported by CLG grants include the Money Crop, Calvert County After the Tobacco Buyout, and archaeological excavations at Calverton, among many others. Most recently, a CLG grant funded the revision of the Calvert County Historic District Design Guidelines. The Training and Education grant requires no financial commitment. MHT awards the Training and Education grant to all qualifying CLGs that apply. Discussion. Fossil hunters searching along the beaches below Calvert Cliffs found numerous 17th century artifacts and reported the location of the finds to the County Historic Preservation Planner. The location of the discovery suggested an early colonial site may be eroding from the cliff above. Utilizing funds allocated by the Calvert County Board of County Commissioners to the Historic District Commission, an archaeological survey was conducted, locating and delineating the eroding site. Early colonial sites are exceptionally rare. Currently, only 25 of the 547 archaeological sites recorded in Calvert County, which is less than 5%, date to this period. Collecting any data that the site holds is crucial to gaining a better comprehension of this foundational period in the historical, social, and economic development of the county, state, and nation. The proposed project grant to conduct an archaeological salvage will offer the opportunity to recover information significant to the understanding of our past before it is lost. Training and Education grant will be used to support HDC members and staff through training administered through the Maryland Association of Historic District Commissions. Fiscal impact. A cash match of $4,000 for the project grant consists of funds in the Historic District Commission budget and is included in the Calvert County staff recommended budget for FY 2024. No additional funds are requested for this project from the county. The Training and Education grant requires no financial commitment by the county. The award of a grant agreement will be contingent on the availability of funds both from the county and the state. Recommendation. Staff requests the Board of County Commissioners review the grant applications, approve the board president to sign the 2 grant applications, and approve them to be submitted. I'm available for any questions.
Is this site on private property?
Yes, sir. This site is on private property. We have permission of the landowner. He's been very encouraging, very enthusiastic about the work that we're doing there.
Okay.
Does he fully understand what he's getting into?
I believe that he does.
Okay.
I believe that I've kept an open line of communication with the landowner.
Okay,
That was my only question.
yeah.
Okay, I move that we approve and authorize the grant applications, approve the board president to sign the 2 grant applications.
Second?
I have a motion and a second that we authorize the grant application, approve the board president to sign the 2 grant applications. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 5, Department of Public Works, durable medical equipment reuse collection. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Marielle Barska. I'm a recycling coordinator with the county, Solid Waste Division, Department of Public Works. And I'm proud to present this program today that we're going to implement. Background, Maryland's Department of Aging has partnered with Maryland Environmental Services, MES, to collect and provide durable medical equipment to Marylanders experiencing illness, injury, or disability, regardless of age, at no cost. Discussion. The partnership between MES and the Maryland Department of Aging provides for the collection, sanitization, repair, and distribution of DME, which improves the quality of life for Maryland residents that need DME. Additionally, the partnership allows for waste diversion by preventing usable durable medical equipment being unnecessarily placed in a landfill. The Solid Waste Division proposes that Calvert County participate in the program. If approved, a collection site will be located at a Peel landfill. MES will collect DME through the container at no cost to the county. MES will transport DME items to the reuse center and prepare them for redistribution. If approved, this program would be promoted on the Calvert County government website under Solid Waste Division page and through the county's social media channels. Fiscal impact. There is a minimum fiscal impact to the solid waste division budget due to a slight loss of tipping fees for donated durable medical equipment items. Conclusions and recommendations. Staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners approves entering the intergovernmental agreement with MES to establish a Peel landfill as a DME collection site.
So durable medical equipment, wheelchairs, beds, walkers.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a whole list here of equipment, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
for all ages, for different types.
Someone has equipment they no longer have a need, instead of throwing it in the landfill, they can bring it to this site, it'll get rehabbed and
Redistributed back out
reused.
to someone who
Yeah.
needs it.
Whereas right now, we're paying to get rid of a lot of this stuff, is that?
It's going to a landfill.
It's actually, right now, it's some of it going to scrap metal, so they don't have to pay for this, but still, it will be a good use for these items that now just going. And it's really a low loss for the budget, because right now, price of scrap metal going down, and it's a good opportunity for us to use this.
Very good.
Mr. President, I make a motion, we approve entering an intergovernmental agreement with MES to establish the Appeal landfill as the DME collection site.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to a presentation, Technology Service Online Permitting Portal. We're all excited to hear this.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Today we're going to do a presentation of the new...
And who are you?
Sorry, my name's Stephen Pereira, Director of Technology Services. Background. The Department of Technology Services and Department of Planning and Zoning recently updated and streamlined the permitting process for obtaining residential and commercial construction permits, as well as associated grading permits, both in the office and online. Until now, this could only be done in the office with cash or paper checks. Discussion. Citizens will be able to apply, review, and pay application fees online by credit card or e-check at Encompass, Calvert County, MD.gov, beginning March 1st. Applicants will instantaneously receive progress emails and attached correspondence at various stages of the permitting process, keeping them well informed of progress of their applications from any device, anywhere, at any time. In addition to creating an improved and streamlined business process, the new system will increase transparency, accountability, and trackability of applications. Fiscal impact, none. Conclusions, recommendations. This demonstration is for information purposes only. And with that, I'll hand you over to Dawn Mister, who is our Land Management Systems Coordinator for the presentation.
Morning.
Good morning,
Morning.
Commissioners. I'm Dawn Mister, Land Management Systems Coordinator with Technology Services. We are here today to present to you the new Calvert County Encompass Citizen Portal. Until now, citizens, businesses, contractors, and the development community had to travel to county offices during their working hours to submit paper building permit applications for review. Then they had to come back or call to check on the status, pick up their documents, and request inspections. Using our current land management system, Technology Services has developed this citizen portal to enable customers to do all of this and more with no travel required. Now we will show you more about this portal. Feel free to stop and ask questions during the presentation. The Board of County Commissioners continue to look for ways to enhance and simplify the permitting process. We have delivered this with the Encompass Citizen Portal, which exhibits marked improvements in communication, accessibility, transparency, and trackability. As you will see in the following slides, there are major benefits for our customers and the county. Communication. The primary applicant receives email notifications directly to their inbox at numerous steps during the permitting process. When fees are due, review comments that need attention, permit issuance requirements, confirmation of scheduled inspections, and also inspection comments. These emails also include additional process information for the applicant. The primary applicant also receives receipts, posting permits, and the use and occupancy via email.
So Dawn, is he gonna, or is the applicant gonna get an email every time it moves from one agency to another?
Yes. So,
I
and we'll
didn't
get to
I didn't
that.
think I heard that in your list.
Well, not yet, because we'll get to that with
Okay.
concurrent review. We've
That's
made
why I
that even
shouldn't ask
better as well.
questions.
That's okay. This new and improved communication will enhance customer relations and can provide faster turnaround time for resolving issues. Accessibility. Applicants now have permit information readily available to them 24 hours a day with ability to access the information on mobile devices and personal computers. At the convenience of the customer, permit information can be viewed in real time, meaning that any change in the information or progress is immediate. Calvert County fees can be paid using credit cards and e-checks immediately after they receive the email that says fees are due. Environmental health fees can be paid to their office using credit cards by phone and in the office. And documents and plans can be viewed and downloaded. And beginning tomorrow, March 1st, building permit applications can be filled in and submitted online as well, and inspections can be scheduled online. Transparency and trackability. We know the Board of County Commissioners are eager to increase government transparency. We have done just that with this portal. Once a customer has created an online portal profile, they will see a snapshot of every permit application they're associated with. It becomes the customer's dashboard, just like your car. All of the important information about your car is in one place that makes sure your car is running correctly. From the dashboard, customers can access permit information 24 hours a day, real time, and track permit status, reviews, comments, inspections, and pending actions.
Dawn, I'm sorry, so while we're in that part, I go in now to get a permit. I get 3 or 4 different pieces of paper. That goes away?
Yes, sir.
Just stop me if I'm wrong here. I'm doing this online.
Yes, sir.
Is there somebody there that somebody says, hey, I'm completely non-techy. Here's my phone, my iPad, what have you. Walk me through this, help me get set up. All they need to do is provide the information, where they're at, what they're doing, the basic information that would go on there. So when they walk out of that office, it's all on the phone or whatever device they use. So, because, if they walk out without doing that, they're not going to do this,
Yes, so it's a website, so they don't need to load an app or do anything on their phone or their computer. It's all right there for them. All they have to do is create a profile, and we do have an employee of planning and zoning that's what he does.
It's important they do that.
Yes.
Because if not, I'm telling you where they're going to be at 11728 Roseby Hall Road, telling me, yeah, Mike, I know it's there, but I don't know how to do it,
Yes.
blah, 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 blah. So I implore you, please, please, you know how techie I am. It's terrible. So that when they walk out of there, they have done this. They've gone in, they've done it, they know how to do it, and then after that, it'll take care of itself.
So we're doing a couple things. We are working with CMR to get public outreach, social media.
But they should do this
Flyers.
when they're putting the permit in.
We can help them do that too.
Because if they walk out there without doing that, I'm telling you, they're not going to do it.
So they technically wouldn't need to come in the office to do that.
Okay.
If they call in and say, how do I do this? Jesse will certainly help them.
Because
through it.
like right now, a guy's doing a shed or something, he doesn't know how to do this. So he's rolling in the office, he's used to getting the 3 different pieces of paper,
Sure.
what have you. So this is such a brand new thing, somebody's got to be there to say, okay, let's walk you through this, you're in, now you're good. And now
Yes.
when you want to check this thing or what have you. But if they don't do that from the get-go, all this money, all this time, I'm telling you,
So like I said, CMR, and we are going to put this out, again, social media outreach. We're hoping to make flyers that will have instructions for the person that doesn't want to stand there and do it. They want to go home and figure it out. We'll have that for them. And every email that they get during the process, so even if they give us a paper application, that next email they get tells them, if you need help, email this or call this number. We have all of that on every email we send them, that if they ever have help, they know where to go. So we have done that also.
Would they get the profile the same day, or would that be the next day?
They actually set that up themselves.
Okay.
So they would go in, just like you're on Amazon, you have to create.
So I could do the profile and the permit the same day?
Yes.
Right
can-
while they're in the office,
They could.
if they chose to. I mean, you know what I mean? Because this is all about, in my mind anyway, my 20%, streamlining for 8 years, I've had you guys have my permit. Maybe it's at the health department. Maybe it's at the engineer office. Maybe it's in public works. Maybe it's in planning and zoning, but they don't know. So for 8 years, I pick up the phone and I'm calling somebody, stopping them from what they're doing, interrupting their day, that when they may be waiting on something too, and they're not privy to maybe where it's at. So now they're making, this never-ending cycle. It is painful. Beyond belief, it's painful, and I do it almost every week. I'm not kidding you, almost every single week for something. And I don't mind doing it, but the labor that I put on you guys and the interruption I put on you guys weekly, so that's why I'm just praying that when they walk out, or however this is done, that we've done everything we can so that, because, you know what I mean? It's a waste of everybody's time.
Sure. One of your points is we've been working a long time for you on this, so we are very excited about this as well. And the second point, we have to be careful that, because we do not have firewall security to enable a website to be accessible in the office. So if they bring their phone, certainly, we'll help them navigate their phone. And then we'll give them the piece of paper that says this is how you do it, and then they can also call in. We won't be able to have currently a computer that they can sit in the office and create their profile without, going to a staff computer, which we don't want that either. So that is something we can work on. Maybe, some counties have kiosks. The big point of that is to make sure that our security is kept high. So yes, we're very excited. We've worked a long time with this. So, in addition, let's see, also when applying, the applicant can also invite additional applicants. So if you're the applicant, you can invite your contractor, your engineer. So say you put your hands up, I don't want to deal with this, engineer, please deal with this. They can invite the engineer to the application, and the engineer can take on all of these duties of, looking up to see what the reviews are, and their contractor, you want to see what the inspections are doing, go for it.
Does this timestamp each one of these interactions?
So each step of the process is time-stamped, so when it moves into a next progression. So the first progression is you have to process the permit, and then once you process the permit, then it goes to an internal validation of the application. So yes, each one of those steps are time-stamped.
So Mary Beth sends it out for something on the first. It documents, she sent it to wherever.
Yes.
So when they call back and scream, she didn't do it.
Yes.
No, it's here.
Yes, we
Okay.
have a lot of documentation currently, and we've added some more that's available just in log histories that they can do. So yes, and I have another point I'll make later that's even more exciting, as far as that information goes.
Awesome.
So in addition to these improvements, or I should say, these improvements have enabled county staff to quickly identify the times permits have been with a customer as well with the county. So each permit has, on our internal view, we have a little chart that says how long it's been at the customer hands and how long it's been in the county hands. So we can tell you in hours, actually, how long it's been. So every time it goes out we send an email to the customer that says you owe this money. If the customer takes a day or 3 weeks, we can see that. Because if they come to us and say, you've had my permit for 5 weeks, well, 3 of those weeks we were waiting for you to pay. So we can see all of that now.
So is there an alert on there if it lays on my desk for a month and
We
it
are
doesn't
working on that.
move? Is somebody gonna say, hey buddy, get off your butt?
Good
So-
question.
We're
Good
actually
question.
working on two parts of that. And not only for the staff, but also for any permits that have been sitting in the customer so long. They're like, hey, are you planning on continuing this permit? So we are in the process of working on that.
When will
So
that be completed? That's key.
I don't
That's
have
the-
a date, but it is in process.
Stephen, I need it yesterday.
I mean,
We
it's
will
just
get
a,
it for you.
No,
We
he's
will get it
right.
for you.
a prompt to the employee that, hey, this thing has been on your desk for 10 days and we don't see any activity.
So before we process, they have that ability now. So we also, as county staff, have dashboards. So every time a review comes to you, we have assignments. So it can go to you as your assignment, and you have a dashboard that says, pops up as soon as it hits the step that you were speaking about. It hits the review process, it's up on their dashboard, here's your due date. You know it right away. Within 5 minutes, the dashboards are refreshed. So it's instantaneously for county staff to see what they need to do.
And it'll timestamp these reminders. So let's say it's sitting at
Buddy's
Corporation
desk.
A, right? You know, and it says, hey, look, when the customer comes in screaming, hey, we reminded them on the 1st, we didn't get any interaction. On the 7th, a reminder went back out. Some type of trail. And you know where I'm going with all this. I mean, this is
So the ability for us to send emails, I call Amy my magician, she is able to develop an email, an auto email. When she develops that, based on formulas that the parameters that we decide, it automatically logs when that notification goes out. So, yes. Okay. And that's not all. As a part of the development, portal development process, we collaborated with all of our reviewing agencies to develop a more streamlined permit process, creating significant efficiencies in the process. Permit reviews, to your statement earlier, permit reviews are now concurrent, including environmental health, when it's applicable. Customers no longer have to wait for one review agency to complete it before the next agency gets it. They all get it at the same time. Even like the Office of the State Fire Marshal, we have built it so that external review agencies we don't have to wait for them to come to our office every 2 weeks or once a month. They are also receiving this at the same time and can review as well on the portal.
But I was always told this can't move forward till after this person.
Correct.
So you telling me now you can go on there and do all of your work?
Yes, sir.
Granted, it's pending, you know, say fire marshal walking in for that. Really?
Yes,
Really?
yes.
And we're gonna do it like that?
We're doing it now. We're doing it
Okay.
now.
Awesome.
We
Awesome.
are doing it now.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
Good.
we're doing it now.
Good.
We're just beefing it up
And this
a
is
little
tape
more each day.
recorded.
Yes, we are doing
Cameras
it.
on.
Yeah. Because
Yes, yes, we
we
are.
all
doing
know what I'm talking about.
So that leads to the next issue. So I come in, I need a permit to build a dog pen, because you do need a permit to build a dog pen. That's pretty easy. Is there a way to categorize these things so it don't lay on somebody's desk because they tell me I've got 15 ahead of you and I'll get to you when I get through my first 15? Is there a way that the person can look and see this is nothing? I can just check the box and get it out of
So
off
part
my
of the
desk?
collaboration was us, the review agencies coming to an agreement. And their agreement was, okay, for first round of reviews, it's this many days. If it's a simple application, get it out of there. You know, so they have agreed to all of that, that when that dashboard, when they have a review on the dashboard, we can even add the comment, the description of the work, so they can see right away, it's a deck.
My God, it sounds like common sense coming back to county government.
Now, that's what I'm wondering, but, and you bring up a point, so that dog pen does not need the health department.
No.
But it comes up with a reason to need the health department, because, you know, it could be near a moon somewhere, okay? How do we get around that?
So environmental health was a part of the collaboration. They were great in agreeing to the process as we have it now. Concurrently, they were very into it because it's going to help them as well, streamline their process.
Yeah, they don't need to be seeing all this stuff.
So, well, what they did was, along with water and sewer, when we are developing these application processes, we try to automate it as much as possible. So when we develop it, we say, okay, environmental health, when do you need to see something? Okay, we need to see this, 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 and this. Okay, so now when that comes in, we have it so that if it's on well and septic and it's a fence, we've already told the system not to send it to environmental health. So their reviews are not automatically generated. They're only generated when it's
They
required.
don't get an automatic approval then at that point. If the system sees that section doesn't need it.
No approval necessary. It just goes to the other reviews.
You're making my heart flutter.
God, where's this been?
So what's the turnaround time on a dog pen gonna be?
Well,
It's already in your yard.
we've had them, so since January 23rd, we've had them as quick as 2 days.
my
So,
God.
yeah, like I said, the collaboration took a while. My gray hair, but we
Hey,
did
he's
it.
been talking about 8 years. I've been talking about it for 4, so.
Yeah, so with that being
I
said.
mean, I'm not making that up. I'm dead serious.
With
I mean,
that being said, well, I've been here 30, we're still, I'm talking about the same thing. But 2 days for an easy permit, 4 days an easy permit. When it gets to your increased time is when the plan isn't correct. And we have that available on the website, and I'll put a plug in for Do I Need a Permit? It's on the Calvert County website. You can go on there, you can say, I want to build a deck. And you navigate to it, and it'll say everything you need for this deck.
Does this alleviate them having to come in? Can they pay online and have it emailed? Oh, thank
Yes.
the Lord.
Credit card and e-checks. And yes, the health department can't pay through our online portal because it's a state agency. Right now, I'm still trying to work that through with them. The applicants can still call and give them their credit card information. They can pay it. So that, yes. So basically, you can do all of this from your couch if you needed to.
Awesome.
So, yes, concurrent reviews, that is a huge win for us, for everybody involved, county, as well as our customers and our applicants. The other good news is if you have ever put a permit in with us, you've had to remember a couple different permit numbers. Well, we've actually consolidated the building and grading application online. So when you're filling it out one time, you're only filling it out one time. You only have one number to pay for. The county staff only has one number to review and inspect. All the history is within that application. So that was another bonus that we did. So again, we've already talked about it. The days we've seen, I have a tracker on my dashboard that I can see in and out. I can see when things are sitting. And staff efficiency is actually improving because we went from fewer manual steps. So before January 23rd, staff was, just inspections and permit staff was touching it about 6 or 7 times to make it go to the next step. Now we're down to 4 at the very major steps that they need to take it. So we believe these improvements will deliver decreased total permit processing time. So we are very excited. So today you've heard the Encompass Citizen Portal delivers improved functionality for our customers and county staff. Communication, accessibility, transparency, and trackability. Customers can access this portal by visiting encompass.calvertcountymd.gov directly or navigating our Calvert County website. This new process has been in place internally since January 23rd, 2023, with major wins for everyone. Our submission for building permits for online starts tomorrow, as well as the ability to schedule your inspections online. So with that being said, your contractor can be on site in the field, go on his phone, and immediately schedule an inspection. So that's a good win for us too. And just as a note, I do want to state that if you decide to apply online with a paper application, not a big deal. All of this information is still available to you online as long as you create a profile. So you can say, I'm going to give you a paper application, but I want to see everything online, certainly. You can do that. It's just creating the profile is what's going to give you that availability and accessibility. And just as a side note, we are expanding, and we have more in our bucket to turn out, but we're planning on expanding it to more application types, our trades, electric, plumbing, our commercial uses, our home occupancies. We're going to do all of the same good stuff with them.
Awesome.
And also other areas in the county. We have some good stuff on the horizon.
Awesome.
So it's up to you. I've told you what it does. I do have some slides if you want to see what the applicant sees. As Commissioner Hart was asking, what will the applicant see, what they get? So the first one is, this is how you go in and create a profile. So this is where they would go in, and if you have a profile already, you just log in. If you don't, you see down at the bottom where it says create a profile, it'll ask you to have a security question and create a password. The next page, this is your welcome page. So anytime I log in, it's going to say, welcome Dawn, you owe $5,146. So what this does is it keeps a running total of all of my outstanding fees. So if I am that one that has a permit that has been sitting for 6 months, I know that I still have to pay for that. The next page is...
And on that feed there, that will show ours plus the health department?
Yes. The
Okay.
only difference is if it's a health department, it will say cannot pay online. And it'll be in red, so they will know that right away. And I will add to that, we send emails, again, for every step, and one of those steps is when you have environmental health fees due. So when they get that email, it's going to say you owe $50, and this is, you call our office at this number, and you can give a credit card. So we're telling them, okay, this is your next step. This is where we need to go. This page is where we're going to submit the application online. You'll see on the right-hand side, applications, licenses, and permits. This is just one of many that we want to put on here. So they will just navigate to they want to do the building construction permit. The next page is just like the paper application. It's going to ask you the description of your project, what's your name, where is it, what's the site. There'll be a couple pages like this that will get some detailed information about your project, but again, to your point, it looks exactly like the paper application. The next one, we talked about dashboards. This is the dashboard. This is what they're going to see. So for each permit that you are associated to, this is the information at a high-level glance that you're going to see. If you want to go into the application to see the details, you're just going to simply click View Details, and you're going to go into that permit application. Next, we see what they will, if they want to see reviews, they can see them listed. They can see if they're complete. If they want to see more, as you'll see, the bottom one says there's a resubmit required. They'll click View Details. They'll be able to go into the next screen. Well, the next slide will tell us this is what they'll see. They'll see any comments that are outstanding. They just click in on that review.
You bring up a great point. The biggest he said, she said is comments.
Mhm.
I was told XYZ, I did XYZ, now you told me ABC. Is all that there?
Yes.
So when those comments go out, and stop me if I'm wrong, I was always told, basically a project comes in, I have 5 comments. The 5 comments get satisfied, there shouldn't generate any more comments.
Correct. With concurrent review, though, I will add in that if your project needed 4 reviews and 3 of them had resubmittals, you are going to receive a full email with all of the comments in it at one time after the reviewers are complete.
But
So
it's
you're
a
not, it's a one.
one-time thing, right?
Yes.
Because I constantly hear, hey, I did everything I was told to do, then the comments came back, another set came back contradictory or what have you. I mean, I on the phone yesterday. I mean, I have a number to call back today, kid you not. So this will eliminate that, right? This.
I can't speak for the reviewers. However, yes, this
But they don't
will-
have the ability to just keep playing with this thing, right?
I can't speak for the reviewers. I can tell you that when all of those reviews are complete, we are sending them out, well, real time, that person can be on that portal and see it real time, all of the comments. And then we will send a detailed email with all of those comments written out. So that applicant is gonna know right away, okay, I need to do this, 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 and this. When they resubmit, yes, when the reviewers see it come back on their desk, they're going to be going to these comments and saying, yes, they fixed this, yes, they fixed this, yes, they fixed this, it's all approved, and move forward.
Mary Beth wants to say something.
I just wanted to add, Mary Beth Cook, Director of Planning and Zoning. So it could very well be that one of the comments is, say, address stormwater management. They didn't do that at all. So if they're going to address stormwater management, and there's some questions about how that was done, they may well get 5 more comments based on that. But that one comment is huge.
Right, and how do we, to get us out of that one, because I get it, because that's a broad statement, right?
Right.
Address stormwater management. Do we have parameters of what that must be? You know what I mean? So when that, you know what I mean? Because somebody says, well, I did this, but they said now I couldn't do that, I had to do, you know what I mean?
It's a state regulation, and they hired an engineer for a reason, and those
so that's-
engineers should know.
They have those directives there,
They do.
they know that must comply to that state reg, and then if we see that and we see it did apply, great. But if not, we can say you did not comply with state regulations, back to the same comment again. So we're not really adding any new comment, you just didn't satisfy.
Or maybe there's missing information. So maybe they did comply, but whatever facility they chose to do, they didn't provide enough detail or the correct computations, or there's situations where it's going to go back and forth a few times.
But still really the same.
Same comment.
Because, we'll hear things that weren't even discussed, brand new things came up after the fact.
Well, if they show a stormwater management facility too close to a septic system, or, yeah, they're going to get more comments, they may have to redesign it. I mean, there's any number of reasons why, but I don't feel like the majority of the time staff is making comments and then going, oh, I forgot these 7 things.
Right, because
not
that's how they
happening.
always present
No.
it, right, when I get, that.
Sure.
Okay.
So when I make my application, I include my engineer and my contractor. So when comment comes back, I didn't address stormwater or whatever, we automatically kick it back to the engineer, and I get a copy of the email so that I know.
So your primary applicant, so if you said, I don't want anything to do with it, I want my engineer to apply as a primary applicant, they're seeing everything.
But I get a copy, so I know.
So we only send it as not to spam everybody's inbox. We only send it right now to the primary applicant. That could change if we needed it to, but right
Well,
now
that
we're
should
only
change.
sending it. I'm sorry?
That should change.
Okay.
I need to know.
Okay.
Keep everybody on the
Because,
same
like, to
page.
Mike's point, people come to us all the time and say,
Okay.
you're holding up my permit.
Uh-huh.
And we make a phone call and we find out, no, we sent it back to the engineer 2 weeks ago. We're waiting to hear back from him. So we do need to work
That should
on.
be required, the applicant gets notification of
Yeah.
everything that, that way there is no misconception, so we have no control of what that outside person does, but at least.
At least I know
That's right.
that my engineer is holding up now and not county government.
Yeah, that needs to be in there.
And I will add to Mary's comment, the website we continually are updating that as far as requirements, what they need on a plan. So if they haven't, stated how far they are from the building restriction line, that's going to be sent back because that is on our guidelines in our website. So you have to understand, small things like that can happen too. Again, that's a small fix.
Growing pains. Yeah, I get that, yeah.
And it's people that, some of the applicants have never submitted a permit application. So the more we can send them to the website and say, here's the information, you can print it out, this is what you're gonna need on a plan, that helps them as well. So we do, and I know some of the reviewers do have checklists that they do give the engineers to be able to say, yep, I did this, and I did this. So we are steadily working on increasing the knowledge base that's out there.
Yeah, we should know, I should know if
Okay.
I found the applicant. I should know when it got kicked to my engineer, and I should know when my engineer returned it back.
Okay.
So that, it just keeps me from wondering what's going on and not having to call either you or the engineer.
Right. So we will note that and we
Please.
will work
Yeah.
on that.
Please.
We will do that.
Because the more I know as an applicant, the less I'm gonna pick up a phone and drop a dime on anybody.
Definitely.
So-
We're wondering when this goes live tomorrow, will it decrease the phone traffic? Will it decrease the foot traffic? And it quite possibly can. You know, we're living in a tech world, everybody's got a phone in their
I
pocket.
think not
so-
at first, it's like anything new, but once they use it a few times and that becomes the way to do it, I think it's gonna be phenomenal.
Word has gotten out that we've been working on this, and the ones who have come into the office are like, we can't wait for this.
Well, think about the amount of phone calls, right?
Yes.
So they don't know where their permit is. So they call their builder, contractor, what have you. That's one call. Maybe he's calling over to the engineer and that's another call. Engineer's telling him, hey, I sent it over there. Right? So now the contractor's trying to call us. They're saying, we don't have it. I mean, look at all, I mean, you know, you see us every day. Now all of a sudden, all this and time's going by, and by the time they come see us, they're mad. You know, because money's been spent, time's been there. I mean, they are completely upset. You know how many times I don't have somebody say, Mike, I wish I'd have came to you earlier. You know, but I let 2 months go by, 3 months go by, because I think maybe they feel that, hey, I'm rushing this, or what have you, or for whatever reasons, all this gets eliminated
Correct.
by being able to see where
And
it's at.
And the more that we get people used to creating a profile going online, the more they're going to get used to that, and they're not going to have to call anybody, because everything is real time, 24 hours a day. After they get off from work, early in the morning when they wake up, everything is very accessible to them.
I mean, we talk about transparency all the time,
Yes, they know.
all day long with this thing.
Yes.
I mean, it should be just like Commissioner Hans said, they need to be pinged that, hey, just sent out, so,
Yes, sir.
good.
So the next slide is similar to reviews. It's for inspections, so you can always see what the status of your inspections are. We actually, one of our emails is we send to the applicant what inspections, minimum inspections are required. So we have trouble with that sometimes, as they don't know what they're required if they've never built anything before. Now we're telling them what may be
So the
required.
inspector goes on site, does an inspection, it passes. Can he on site put that into his device?
If they
and
have connectivity,
And
yes.
it automatically goes to?
Correct. Correct. If they, and right now, speaking to the inspectors the other day, it's the connectivity that we need to figure out now. So yes, but they can if they definitely can if they have connectivity. So you can see here, the first 3 inspections have view details. So they've been completed, so if they needed that. But the bottom, the slab inspection, you'll notice that it's been scheduled but not completed. So this also gives the applicant the ability that they can, oh, I don't need that, I don't want to get not, it denied, so I'm going to reschedule or cancel. They can also do that online as well.
So if I schedule an inspection, say it's for, I don't want to say this afternoon, it is this afternoon, for tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and this afternoon at 4 o'clock, I decide, oops, I'm not really ready. Can I go online and cancel that inspection that quickly?
Yes. It will
And the
wipe out
inspector will
those.
see that tomorrow morning, so he won't waste his time going out. Okay.
They also have dashboards. So we're in change management mode as far as from paper to your dashboards and being aware of what is on your to-do list right away. So the next one is fees. Again, you can see everything outlined here, what you've paid, what is due. The next slide is the ability for viewing and downloading. So we send you a permit package for your posting, but you lose it or you deleted it. You can go on your portal and download it and put it on your property. So that is very accessible to them as well. Approved plans, if they need to give an approved plan to their contractor, that's there as well. Thank you. And just a quick note after my thank you, the next slide is answering your questions about what our emails look like. So we have 2 examples here of the many. The one on the left is our thank you for your submission. and you owe $25. And then, because it's a small snapshot, what you don't see is the bottom of the email is this is the permit process. Once it's paid, then it goes for a validity and review, and then it goes to your review agencies, and then you pay for it, and then you get issued a permit, and then you request inspections. On the right-hand side, this is one of your emails, Commissioner Hart, that if you have any review comments, it's telling you each review is broken down with a comment. So if you have 3, they're going to be broken down by review type and give you all of the comments. And then it's going to tell you how to resubmit it back to the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So 12:01, if I want to apply for a permit, I can.
That's what we're working on. That's my hope. You might go turn it on now if anybody
And
wants
if
to
you
try.
went, if you went to inspections and permits on your site, you can go right into Encompass from there?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're actually going to add another one. You can get to Encompass now from there. We're actually going to add some more about applying online. You'll be able to, CMR is helping us with the little icons for that too. Click here to apply online.
So this is great. And
However,
I'm not going to rain on it. But the next thing we need to do is do complaints. Figure out electronic filing of complaints for
Already in-
zoning violations. And people can
already
send
in
it
the works.
in. Good. It's not going to take 8 years. Good.
I need to retire at some point.
Is blighted properties included in that?
Yes, so what will be included on that is highway maintenance calls. We will include code enforcement calls.
Good.
We are working with solid waste on bulk pickup because now they have to fill out a form on the website and then they have to print out the papers and then we have to figure out the routes and track. We're working on that for them. So yes, that is in the works.
Awesome.
Yeah, because, and the same kind of tracking system where I filed a complaint, because I've been on this tangent about return calls, so it's the same thing. I file a complaint, I get a response back,
Yes.
and then I get updates periodically, here's what's going on, so I don't feel like my complaint just got dropped in a trash can.
Exactly. Yes, that gives us the ability to send emails again and for them to give us their details. One, a pothole might need less of a description than, something major, or drainage issue or something. So we want to give them the ability to do that online, especially with code enforcement. So again, it's through the same portal and that's where the Encompass name came from. We are trying to encompass everything that we can so that they go to one portal and they can do as much as possible.
Have we given you a team award yet?
I know, right?
Well, let's make sure it works first.
So I will also give another plug to our system and our team. So we're actually also getting ready, working with General Services to turn it on for internal work orders, thank you. Internal work orders, so that right now they're using paper T-drive files, T-drive everything. So we're working on the ability for county staff to go to this portal and say, I need my carpet cleaned in room 3 of the county services plaza. That will also go on a dashboard to general services, whether it's HVAC, maintenance, or whatever. And they're also popping up right away that needs to be done.
Is that why Steven needs all that money he was asking us for a couple hours ago?
You're making his case today. He's getting a lot of wins here today.
We've got 1 or 2 projects in the pipeline, yeah. I mean, a lot of what Dawn's talking about is very exciting, and we're looking forward to bringing that functionality to the county. We haven't finalised the systems and the platforms that we'll be delivering that with, but we are looking forward to, these improvements in the near future.
Well, it costs money, but the efficiency that it's going to create, as Commissioner Hart has alluded to, all the phone calls that go on
ridiculous.
all the time, our time, your time, their time, it's just crazy.
We've been able to save some money because of our team the 3 of us, our team is strong, and we've been able to do some of the heavy lifting and not have to go out to contracts, and we take pride in that. So, yeah, we're
I mean,
keeping the budget
granted,
as well.
I know so much more today about planning and zoning and public works than I ever dreamed I was
This is
gonna learn 8 years
this could be
ago.
dangerous.
I mean,
I hadn't even thought of that.
I mean, it's nuts.
Do you
how
need my
much-
phone number?
I mean,
No, don't give him your phone number. Do not give him your phone number.
Yes, we're very excited too. It's going to be great. We know there's going to be hiccups. We're here to help.
Sorry, it's
and-
going in the right direction.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Yes,
going
definitely.
definitely in the right direction. In 2020 was when all of this started with COVID. It was, we need right away the ability to pay online, and we did that. When we did that, we started seeing, man, we can really do a lot with this, and this is where we are. So
Awesome.
we did a lot with it.
Excellent. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to a work session, Department of Public Works.
Where are they?
Anything over 100 square feet?
Sheds?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Chris Hall, Division Chief of Water and Sewer. We have Andrew Staley with us. I'll just go ahead and read the memo. Background, on October 20, 2022, Calvert County Board of Commissioners directed the Water and Sewer Department plan a work session with Maryland Geological Survey, MGS, regarding water quality. Discussion, Andrew Staley, Program Chief, Hydrogeology and Hydrology Program, Maryland Geological Survey, Department of Natural Resources, will present to discuss the water quality, hydrogeology, and groundwater resources of Calvert County. Mr. Staley has worked with the Maryland, Delaware, and DC Water Science Center in Baltimore since 1999. He has led or collaborated on studies of hydrologic processes, water quality, and modeling. Fiscal impact, there's no fiscal impact. Conclusion, recommendation, Water and Sewer Department and Maryland Geological Survey will inform the Board of County Commissioners and citizens of Calvert County on the past, present, recent, and future conditions of all the Calvert County water aquifers, not just the Aquia, on February 28, 2023.
Go ahead. Thank you, Chris. And thank you to the Board of Commissioners for allowing me to speak on this topic. It's very important that we understand our critical groundwater resources. My agency has worked with the county in the past on groundwater level monitoring as well as groundwater modeling for simulations of the future of the resource as well as groundwater quality projects such as the arsenic issue. And we look forward to collaborating in the future. Thank you. So here's an outline of what I'll be talking about, just a little background in the how groundwater occurs beneath Calvert County. I'll talk a bit about regional groundwater quality issues that we see throughout southern Maryland. Look specifically at each aquifer that's used within the county, and then talk about an effort that my agency is beginning to pursue to compile groundwater quality data from a number of disparate databases. So here on the first slide, you can see a conceptual diagram of how the aquifer system is set up below the coastal plain of Maryland. It is sometimes referred to as layer cake geology. Since we're in Maryland, I like to call it Smith Island cake geology. There's up to 16 different discrete aquifers that are separate from each other. They have their own chemical characteristics. They have their own water levels. One thing to notice is that at the very top, there's these surficial aquifers. Those are unconfined, so they're open to the surface and to the surface water system. The lower aquifers are all confined aquifers, so they're fairly they're fairly isolated from anything that happens at the surface. And you can see it extends all the way beneath Ocean City from basically I-95 in a wedge-shaped body of unconsolidated sediments. So it's not rock, it's actually like sand, gravel, clay, silt. The sand and gravel make up the aquifers, and the water occurs between the grains of the sand and gravel. One other thing to note is that, well, how does the groundwater get into the aquifers? It is actually recharged at the outcrop areas of each of these outcrops. So you can see where they come up to the surface. That is the small area where each aquifer, where the precipitation and surface water will enter the deeper confined aquifer system. So if you look at this diagram on the right, that's the Aquia aquifer. The outcrop area is somewhere up in Prince George's County, along the Potomac River, in Charles County, and throughout southern or central Anne Arundel County. So when you talk about Calvert County, it's about 40 miles from Solomon's Island is where that water entered the system. So why am I mentioning this? Well, it does eventually affect the quality of the water. So when you look at the next slide, you can look at the rate of motion of groundwater. So within the sands and gravels, you're really talking about a fairly slow velocity. We're talking about 1 to 100 feet per day of groundwater motion. This could be accentuated if it's pumped, so you could actually accelerate it if you're pumping and causing a pressure gradient. Within the confining units, it's much slower, less than a millimeter per day to 4 feet per year. So this has implications for how the water can move from the surface to these deeper aquifers that we use as the water resource. That diagram to the left shows the relative residence times of the various depths of the aquifer system. So if you look near surface, you're talking days from infiltration until discharge in the stream or pumping from a well. But if you look at 1 or 2 confined aquifers down, you're talking thousands of years for water to reach that distance. We actually did some age dating. You can use various isotopes to date groundwater. Basically, when was it first infiltrated? When did it last see the atmosphere? And for the upper Patapsco aquifer, which is a fairly deep aquifer in Calvert County, we saw ages from the northern part about 50,000 years old to about 500,000 years old at the southern end, down near Solomon's Island. So across the bay in Somerset County, it's up to 1 million years old.
Wow.
So this, when you think about washing your dog or washing your car, it's something important to keep in mind. This is a precious fossil resource that is a pristine confined aquifer resource.
So you bring up something important, and obviously there's been a lot of discussion. This is not an infinite resource.
Yeah.
The nonchalant use of things, but if you, and obviously I don't know if you know this answer, but what is the health of the aquifers? I mean, forecasting I just saw a thing the other day, like Salt Lake, that's Salt Lake, Utah, whatever it is, it's drying up.
Yeah.
And there's a big battle over there. I mean, you've seen low water in the Mississippi. What does our aquifer health look like?
Yeah, so this is something that my agency is tracking very closely. We do water level mapping every 2 years. The levels have historically been dropping as the resources develop more and more. Certain aquifers are holding steady. The Aquia has dropped. The Aquia aquifer is the aquifer that's used mostly by Calvert County. And it has seen fairly large declines over the last, 75 years or so that we've been monitoring. But recently it's actually stabilized. And so we know that with careful management, the levels can be maintained at proper at proper levels to continue to use the resource, and that's our primary mission to monitor these.
So to the guy out there that goes, this doesn't apply to me, what have you, that aquifer, excuse me, that Aquia one, if I'm saying this right, has issue. Does that mean one day, even though it's got a perfectly working well, he hits a spigot and it's nothing, and now he's got to go deeper? How does that work?
Yeah, so, okay, so these are confined aquifers in the sense that they're actually under pressure. So they're artesian aquifers you may have heard of. Commonly, we think of artesian aquifers as flowing at the surface of the land. That's actually fairly rare, but in the past, this is how most of the Maryland aquifers were. The Aquia used to have flowing wells. Well, the levels have dropped since those days, and now, even though that they're below land surface, the pressure pushes it up to within a few hundred feet of the land surface. So the actual top of the aquifer might be, in fact, 500 feet, 400 or 500 feet below land surface, but the actual water levels are up around 100 or so. So depending, if they're actually screened down in that aquifer 400 feet below land surface, they're still going to get the water. And the way Maryland Department of Environment manages the resources that they look at our water level maps, and if the available drawdown to the top of the aquifer is exceeding 80% of the distance from the pre-pumping surface to the top of the aquifer, that 80%, if there's less than 20% remaining, then they will limit the use of that water at that location. And that's happened only a few times in Maryland so far. But the average homeowner, as long as they're screened within the Aquia, they're still going to get that water. It's different in an unconfined aquifer, and that's, hydraulically speaking, that's kind of a technical point, but I hope that answered your question.
Kinda. I guess, is there a message out there to people at home that, because we talk about that a lot, actually, about, water consumption and things of that nature, that to be a little more mindful about water usage. I'm always thinking next generations. I mean, 50 years from now, what does it look like? It seems like forever ago, but it's not. I mean,
Yeah.
The next generation, I mean, does Maryland feel good about its aquifer these days, I guess?
So
And how we're using it as a state or county or what have you.
I think there will be a reckoning at some point in the future. I mean, there's a lot more talk about treated wastewater being used for potable water, in fact, and that's being done out west more and more. But I think Maryland is pretty wealthy in regards to its water resources, and we should feel lucky about that. But certainly be good stewards of the resource as well. And that's our primary mission. If I can get that point across to you today, that's a win-win.
So a lot of the wells that are being put in now, which by the way, a friend of mine's getting, well, he's got a 6-month wait, but it's $25,000 for a well now.
Right.
At how much deeper are they having to go on average than, say, a well that was done 20 years ago?
Well, it really depends. So there's certain things that limit the usefulness of water. So within the Aquia, there has been an issue with arsenic, as I'm sure you're aware. It's not everywhere in the county, so if he's drilling to the Aquia, it's still a very good quality aquifer that he wouldn't have to go any deeper than you did 20 years ago.
So it's more failure of the infrastructure itself of the well that we're dealing with when we're having to replace all these wells?
Yeah, wells have lifespans, yeah.
Okay.
They will have to be replaced. Certain areas of the Aquia will have to be avoided because they have high concentrations of arsenic. And in that case, you might have to go to the Patapsco system below. So, for instance, I just looked up something for an information request around St. Leonard. I think the upper Patapsco occurs around 780 feet below land surface. So it's quite a bit deeper.
Right.
But
And-
most of the wells around here, I think, are 360,
Three to 400 feet,
yeah.
Mhm. So it's a matter of scale. I mean, everything costs more, the more casing you have to buy, the deeper you have to drill. But I guess my point today is to try to talk a bit about the quality of the aquifers. I'm going to keep rolling here. So basically, there's when you talk about contaminants within an aquifer, you can break it up into two types. You have the anthropogenic contaminants. Those are man-made, caused by humans, usually originating at or close to the land surface, either pesticides applied to farm fields, road salt applied to roads, PFAS from fire training exercises, hydrocarbons from underground storage tanks. And these tend to affect the very shallower aquifers. And because most of the water supply aquifers are confined, they're fairly protected from any surface contamination. So the other type of contamination would be geogenic. This would be the naturally occurring geological contaminants. So within the sediments, you have various minerals which produce contamination such as arsenic, radionuclides like radium and even polonium we're finding in southern Maryland. And then there's other nuisance chemicals such as iron and manganese, sulfur, pH, hardness, and then also saltwater intrusion is another naturally occurring geogenic contaminant. So as a geological survey, we mainly study those in blue, those geogenic contaminants. I can't speak much toward the PFAS. I know that's a very concerning new contaminant. And the Maryland Department of Environment has been testing water systems throughout the state, and they might be good folks to talk to about that. And so within the system within the aquifer system, you have a chemical evolution from rainwater to the deep basin. So rainwater is slightly acidic. So near surface, you're going to have lower pH, and that will mobilize certain minerals within the sediments. As you go further down basin, you actually get less oxygen, and so more reducing conditions and higher pHs, and this will produce other contaminants. So sometimes those geogenic contaminants are confined to either the upper surface of the aquifer system or the lower surface. And so we've tried to map out certain things like the arsenic issue within the aquifer occurs within a band that's kind of in the central part of the aquifer. So that's just one little interesting factoid. Anyway, I'm going to keep going.
So with so many private wells in Calvert County, how often should a homeowner check the quality of their well?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because there's no requirement for them to check other than when it's drilled or when there's a transfer of property. I think there's actually a bill in the state legislature this year that requires testing every 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's probably a good benchmark, because one of the main concerns about private wells is bacteriological, and that could be something that could develop rather quickly if there's a compromised casing or a well cap or something like that. So I think it's always a good idea to have your water tested. Of course, it's on the homeowner to pay for that and arrange for that.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But bacterial, that's not aquifer related, that's more
Nope.
surface.
That's
Like,
right.
As you said, a weak casing, something's coming in from.
Exactly, that
surface.
originates at the surface usually, or through something on the pump column itself that could be introducing contamination into the water supply.
And once in a while, we hear some citizens concerned about the arsenic levels. You mentioned in certain parts of the aquifer, that
Yeah.
you say it's naturally occurring.
Yes.
Is that's, there, some of the individuals try to make association because of the industry that we have here in the county, and it's contributing to that. Is that?
No, that's not right. No.
So arsenic is a naturally occurring.
This is coming out of the sediments within the aquifer itself. And as I mentioned, the water being tens of tens to 100,000 years old. It's really not influenced by our activity. This is the resident water. The longer it sits within the system, it can interact with the rock and the sediment and have, desorption from the sediments and create these concentrations within the water itself. And that's where it's coming from.
And you mentioned the decline in the aquifer had leveled off. I think I'd heard that a couple of years ago.
Yes, I will show some hydrographs that illustrate this, but around 2000, the EPA lowered the standard for arsenic from 50 parts per billion down to 10 parts per billion. At that time, a lot of users in St. Mary's County and Calvert County stopped using the Aquia and drilled to the deeper aquifer, and you can really see a leveling of the response at around that time. So I'll just step down through the various aquifers that occur beneath our feet here in the county. The uppermost one on the left there is the Piney Point and Angemoy aquifer. It's historically been an important aquifer for homeowners. It's not been developed as a public water supply by utilities because it's a rather smaller aquifer. But the main water quality issues with this one is that it has hard water. Hard water is commonly associated with sediments that have a lot of fossil shells within it. So the shell material itself contributes those salts, and that can produce scale on plumbing. It's really not a health concern. It's more of an aesthetic problem. And then, of course, there's the Aquia. This is the most used aquifer within the county. It is known to have, at times high iron as well as hard water, but of course the biggest issue is the arsenic issues. And again, that's naturally occurring.
But I thought you said that's regional.
It is regional, yes.
So there are parts of the county where it's worse than others?
That's correct, yeah.
So if I went in and applied to put a well in, would the health department know to tell me that, hey, because of where you live and the arsenic issues, you need to go deeper?
Yes, the health department has been tracking the arsenic. In fact, when I sent this presentation in to be reviewed by your folks, I got a nice reply from Matt Coomers, who's the environmental health officer, and he sent a whole bunch of new data to me. So that's very handy, and we appreciate all his cooperation with that. So yes, he should be able to let a well owner know whether they're in that area or not. We do have information on that as well that's available on our website. You can see it, that map on the right is one of the water level maps that we produce every 2 years. This is from 2019. We're currently working up the 2021 data. You can see a very large circular concentric circles. That's called a cone of depression centered on Lexington Park, Solomon's Island area. That's been the area of the highest use historically for the Aquia. And so I will step down. The Magathy Aquifer really occurs only in the top part of the county. It's generally good water, but it tends to be very high in iron at times and hard water as well. Going down below the Magathy, this would be kind of the next target below the Aquia. So if you're trying to avoid the Aquia in certain parts of the county, this might be the one that would be the next logical one. It really hasn't been developed in the county. There's not many permits so far for the Upper Patapsco, but in general, it's good quality water. It might have high iron.
How deep is it?
This could be around 800 feet to, it's a rather thick aquifer down to about 1,200. That's around St. Leonard, based on what I was just looking up this morning for someone who had asked about that. Of course, everything is kind of tilted to the southeast, so it'll be shallower up in the upper part of the county and deeper down towards Solomon's. In general, let me see. It is, it might have high iron, but in general, it's fairly, it's good drinking water. But of course, more expensive to access. If you look at the Kona Depression, it's been developed quite extensively in St. Mary's County as an alternative to the Aquia. And so there's the concentric circles kind of center on Lexington Park and then merge with a cone that's up near Waldorf in Charles County. So it's being used quite extensively in other parts of southern Maryland. And I suspect that it'll be an important aquifer in Calvert County in the future.
That'd be a $40,000.
Stepping down, we get to the lower Patapsco aquifer. This is very similar in almost all respects to the upper Patapsco in water quality. It's used quite extensively in Waldorf, where there's a very large cone of depression centered on Waldorf. One thing about these cones of depression, when you draw down confined aquifer water levels to these extents, you might introduce you might end up with land subsidence as a result, where the depressurization of the sediments can actually collapse and compact.
Sinkholes.
Yeah, not necessarily a sinkhole. A true sinkhole would be in limestone rock, where it's dissolved and will collapse on itself. This is more just a slight compaction. Yeah. It can be elastic. It can also come back up. And you see that in California in the Central Valley.
Sounds like my waistline.
And this is something that my agency does monitor. We do land subsidence surveys every October at benchmarks in Waldorf, Cove Point, Lexington Park, and up around Anne Arundel County, Wellfields. The deepest of the aquifers is the Patuxent aquifer, and this is probably not really a viable aquifer in Calvert County. It's very deep, and it might actually be brackish. As you get down dip in these coastal plain aquifers, you start intermingling with the saltwater wedge that's coming in from the Atlantic Ocean, and this has elevated chlorides in this aquifer. But I thought I'd mention it because it does occur.
How deep is that here?
That one would be probably over 2,000 feet. Yeah. So this next slide does show the occurrence of arsenic within the region. You can see on the left there is kind of a contoured band of the areas of high arsenic. It tends to occur in the Aquia aquifer throughout the southern portions of Calvert County. So you see all the green dots to the north. Those are areas that had very low arsenic. It wasn't a concern. So it's more down, I guess, central and southern for the Aquia aquifer.
So in those areas, we just have to drill deep.
Yes, there's other way. I mean, it can be treated, and if there is, if you have multiple wells, you might be able to blend it to create the proper concentrations that would be within regulation.
I just want you to repeat again that it's not an influence from anything we're doing today on the surface.
It is absolutely not an influence of anything we're doing at the surface. This is purely geogenic, geologic contaminant.
Thank you.
Yep. So the map on the right shows some of the water level effects from when the Aquia stopped being used as much once the EPA lowered its standard from 50 parts per billion to 10 parts per billion. You can see hydrographs. These track the groundwater levels over time. So some of them go way back to the 1950s. That one with the red arrow, I think we started measuring back in the 40s. And it was kind of the poster child for groundwater declines within the coastal plain. It was always the well that we showed, like, look how much the water levels have declined. I think 140 feet since the 1940s. And so once that change happened, though, you can see how it levels off and it just kind of goes, it flatlines. So there is hope that with less use, it can actually abate these declines that we've been seeing. So one other thing I wanted to mention was that saltwater intrusion has been an issue in certain parts of Maryland. It usually happens in low-lying coastal areas that are very close to the bay water or to the ocean water, and it needs a conduit to flow into the aquifer. So sometimes there's a paleo channel. So in Kent Island, across on the east side of the Bay Bridge, there's a paleo channel of the Susquehanna River that has coarse sediment that is connected to the Aquia aquifer up in that region. And because pumpage happened inland and reversed the gradient of the aquifer, it actually drew in the bay water through those coarse paleo channel sediments. So that's one way that you can get saltwater intrusion. Another way is simply inundation and storm flooding from storms, as well as sea level rise, which we know is going to be an issue in the future. So low-lying areas such as Lower Eastern Shore are very much a concern for those reasons. Calvert County doesn't have a lot of those really low-lying areas other than maybe along the river. But one area that really could become an issue is that wells in very low elevations could become susceptible to be a conduit for saltwater intrusion. So any well that's in an area that gets flooded could actually directly inject that salt water down into the deep freshwater aquifers, and that's a very big concern that we have. So it's really an infrastructure problem. You could also have failing wells that aren't properly sealed at the surface that could introduce that salt water, and that's an issue that we're going to be trying to get a handle on. And one way we're going to do this, and we've done this in the past to try to map the arsenic issue, is that we need to compile all the groundwater quality data from the various sources that we have within the coastal plain. So there's a number of agencies that collect groundwater quality data. Maryland Department of Environment collects it for the reason of drinking water and public utilities. U.S. Geological Survey does various projects throughout the coastal plain, as do we. And then county health departments have different reasons for collecting water quality data: when a new well is drilled, certificate of potability, and then various regional issues like the arsenic issue. So it takes quite a bit of effort to compile all this data from all the different county health departments. That's something that we've started. We've already done it with a couple of Lower Eastern Shore counties and Anne Arundel County, and we're going to try to make our way through all of the coastal plain counties. But what it does, when you get it all in one spot, you have the opportunity to look at trends. You can identify those areas, just like the arsenic bans. Various other, we've also seen up in Anne Arundel County radium occurrence, which is really related to specific geochemical qualities of certain parts of the Magathie and Upper Patapsco Aquifer up there. And so I'm going to be contacting Matt Coomers again and trying to get his help with compiling all this data. And so that's just where we're heading. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer that for you.
I think we've been asking them as we go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the information. Thank
Sure,
you.
Sure. And if you can, at any time, please contact me if you have.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that brings us to our second work session, Department of Public Works repealing and replacing Resolution 32-16 update. Good afternoon, or evening.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
Jared Cosgrove, Acting Deputy Director of Public Works. I have with me Deputy Director Public Works Enterprise Funds, James Ritter. We are here to update you on the process that started, I guess, on January 23rd for repealing and replacing Resolution 3216 that deals with, of course, the EDUs for water and sewer. If you'd like, I can read the memo, or we can just jump into the presentation.
We don't need the memo at this point of the day.
Jump into it.
Got it. So the purpose we're here is, like I said, is to give you an update on where we are with the water and sewer usage, EDUs, and the resolution. And to provide you a path forward as far as the customer billing. Go to the next slide. So I'm gonna turn it over to James and let him give you kind of where we're looking at as far as the path forwards and where we're at.
So on the 24th of January, we were directed to begin the process to repeal and replace Resolution 3216. And as part of that, the new resolution will introduce the requirement to only have one EDU, one water EDU and one sewer EDU per residential dwelling. And then the new resolution will also consider introducing a tiered billing structure to look at alternatives to billing from what we currently have. So as part of that rate study, we're currently working with a consultant, and we're going to look at a mechanism to forecast our revenues and expenses for the future, to look at what our expenses might be, what those revenues need to be, look at that compared to our debt and capital impacts. And then that study is happening based on American Water Works Association Manual M1, which provides guidance on establishing water rates, fees, and charges. And then we are also working on some customer enhancements. So one of the things that our intent is to continue with quarterly billing. So as part of that rate study, we will be looking at performing an impact analysis to look at what the new rates, how that might impact typical residential customers as well as large commercial customers, so we can have an idea of what their potential bill might be if we establish the new rates. We're also going to analyze the revenue requirements, what our true cost of service will be, so that'll all feed into that, as well as financial planning to look at establishing what our revenue may need to be in the future, and then, figuring out how to set our utility pricing to match with that. We're also working with our billing software vendor to develop a customer-facing portal, so the customers will be able to look at what their bills are going to be, what their consumption will be, as well as generate a new bill format that'll provide additional information on what their historic consumption has been, what the fee charges are, and what their current consumption is, similar to other utilities that they may be more familiar with. So we're also working to increase our customer engagement. And the way we're doing that is providing educational outreach to residential and commercial customers on several different topics that will help to increase transparency and awareness to our customers of kind of how we operate. So some of the ways that we're doing that is we have, currently we're doing targeted customer outreach to the customers who were involved in the recent audit. So we're going out and helping them to assess what the water may have been, what their consumption may have been, and ways to address that, to see if there's anything we do to assist them. And then we're also working with, collaborating with communications, media relations, and economic development to develop several different types of media outreach on educational media that will be released through the county website, social media, as well as press releases. And then the Water and Sewer Division is also collaborating with economic development to engage the business community more, to assist them with water conservation and kind of understand what their usage patterns are.
So just to add what James is saying, some of the customer service we've been doing over the past month, we've actually gone out to about 125 of the customers that received the EDU audit letter, and checking their meters, make sure they're functioning right. Working with them, if they're willing to, if they're there, if they want to come out and talk, we'll pull them data logs. We'll show how much water usage on an hourly basis based on the day, over the week, We've reviewed them with some of them. We've had conversations with some of them that pointed stuff out that they weren't aware of. I mean, if you think a lot of these newer homes have multiple shower heads, you know, a shower head uses 2.5 gallons a minute, you know. But some of them have 2, 3 shower heads running at the same time. So you've doubled or tripled your usage. You think, well, I'm only taking a 10-minute shower. I might be only using 20 gallons a minute, 25 gallons, but you got 2 shower heads, that's 50 gallons a minute. So it adds up quickly. And we're talking to customers and educate them on the usage of their, I guess, equipment in their house. We're trying to show them where they could be used. We're working with them and showing them the data from our meters, and maybe they can correspond to their high usage to maybe help conserve water. We all know we need to conserve water, especially based on the last presentation we had with the usage of aquifer. So we're trying to do that with our customers now also.
JR, I can't remember the number. Matt Comers had told me about just a leaking toilet. Something that you wouldn't even notice, just a little bit, like how much that uses. Do you remember that number? Because he had told me about a simple dye test you would do to see the next day if your tank had leaked in. But it's so much more than what you think it is. I wish I could remember that number. It's huge.
So there's 1,440 minutes in a day. So if you're losing a half a gallon a minute, that's going to be 700 plus gallons a day that you're not actually consuming.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was that high, but it was a lot more than what you think. And
Correct.
just a little bit. And he goes, and you should test your toilets just in the back. Just dye.
Mhm.
See, yeah, it's what you're saying. It's things you don't think of.
Correct.
It uses just waste water.
I mean, just think, you brush your teeth in the morning, you're there for what, 2, 3, 5 minutes? You
Yeah,
leave the
some people
faucet
just turn the
running?
spigots on and just let them run.
I mean, that's 10 gallons,
Wow.
5 minutes.
JR, are the consumers receptive to you? Do you feel like the outreach is working?
Some of them are, some of them not so much.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. You know, some of them just tell us to leave.
Really?
But, I mean, we're there, we're trying.
Well, if anybody wants a CIP presentation, where's that money going to come from? I mean, so this is good stuff that you're doing.
Right.
Just look at replacing one facility.
Correct.
Millions and millions of dollars.
And, you know, and just like the last presentation talking about aquifers, you might be on a public system, but that water still comes from that aquifer.
Well, I was going to say, right. It's not like we're
You know,
pumping it from.
it might be a different one than at my house and my, you know, my private well, but, you know, public system goes a little bit deeper, it goes to a larger flow, but it still comes from the aquifer. You know, we still need to conserve that water. You know,
Wow.
And just to be clear, on a tier billing, that's just one option on the table, nothing in stone?
Correct.
Is that correct? Yes.
yes, it's an option.
Okay, yep, thank you.
And typically, those been, because you'll hear the argument, I'm just going to put it out there, they're going to say, well, it costs the same no matter what I'm using. Not really. I mean, if you're putting more strain on the system, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, every drop that comes out that spigot, you guys basically certify that's good drinking water. And that takes man hours, takes time, and then also too, if more goes into the septic. And that, I mean, and I think what, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're just trying to, there's nothing wrong with being responsible with water usage. And tiers sometimes help with that. I mean, because if there is no, hey, I use whatever I want, then remember, when I was a kid, you remember the phone, if you dialed long distance, it was more money, and stuff. And there was things in place to say, be responsible about your time, I mean, and like I said, just like you said, multiple shower heads. Who thinks about that?
Right, and and all of our water systems are permanent from MDE, and we're allocated so much water that we can draw. And if you start reaching that limit or exceed it, at that point, at some point, we're going to be forced to come up with conservation plans for these systems where the users are going to have to follow. We're going to have to come up with some way to conserve the water because they're only going to allocate so much water for us to draw.
And what happens if you exceed allocation?
There's always possibility of fines. There's always that. That's kind of the hammer that MDE has with any violation you have. There's always fines associated with it. But they always want you to try to come up with a conservation plan and implement that. Get the users on board so you can get it back in reality or within what you're allocated. You know, there is times that you could get an expansion of your allocation, but it's got to be justified.
But I mean, I think the
Some of the
message is we
extreme
should
water
be good
usage we're
stewards
seeing-
of this water.
What's that?
We should be good stewards of this water. It's
Correct.
about next generations and generations after that, you know, just should be very conscious of.
Hopefully the education component's gonna spell all that out.
Yeah. Don't feel yeah. Not happy that you're getting pushed back. It should be all receptive. It's all trying to help.
In the day's job.
So the trigger for all of this was the charge for the EDUs.
Correct.
So is your study going to figure out a way to get around, how do we get around that?
Well, go ahead.
Funding wise,
And maybe you can't answer that until the study comes back. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what triggered this entire debate, was when people got billed for additional EDUs. They had no idea they were on an allocation, you know, basically a license to use X number of gallons, and they were over that allocation, and they got a bill to pay for an additional allocation, is what got everybody excited.
Right.
So how do we move, I guess that's what the study's gonna tell us, correct?
Yes, because the study's gonna look at, current and future demand, to feed into that and look at how billing could be in line with that based on policy. So one of the big drivers MDE has is conservation. And one of their recommendations is a tiered billing structure to help support conservation. So those are all parts of things that'll be looked at during the study.
And I understand that we're gonna work with all these customers to try to get them to conserve water. We had people testify, I'm gonna water my yard. I don't care what you tell me, I'm gonna water my yard.
Right.
But I'm not paying for that additional allocation. So those people, I'm not sure all the water conservation education in the world is gonna help them. I'm just being honest and perfectly blunt here today. So, you know, the issue remains of our billing system and the EDUs and how we move forward. Because it's my understanding everybody else is doing EDUs in our surrounding jurisdictions. We didn't create this system all by ourselves, correct?
Tiered billing is predominantly used. So, one of the things we do is.
So, some people don't like talking about tiered billing. But based on what I understand, it's either tiered billing or EDUs. Is that fair?
Or some other type of formula, yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I mean, that's where I'm trying to get to, you know. And I think, is it just one study or are we doing two studies?
We're doing one rate study.
One rate study.
Yeah, and they're looking at our capital connection charges as well, as part of it, re-looking at this.
And that study is going to determine how we move forward
Correct, with our billing,
with our billing system.
yes.
And that study is supposed to take how long?
10 weeks.
10 weeks. So, and when was it started?
About 3 weeks ago, the PO was issued 2 days ago.
So we should have that in another 2 months, less?
Roughly, yes.
2 months. I'm just trying to set expectations, because you know after today, we're gonna hear you haven't done a daggone thing in 30 days. But we are working, and we said from the onset, no matter how long it takes, we're gonna do our best to get this done right.
Yes.
And while James doesn't want to point out, I will take blame, because the reason that water and sewer is in the situation that it's in today is because we, as commissioners, refused to raise rates when they should have been raised. So, not these three, but at least
No, but
two of us
right. No, it's true.
participated in not raising the rates when they should have been raised.
And some of that's not seeing the forest for the trees. You know, the more you break down this stuff and you see on the CIP stuff, it seems so, you know, and get rocks thrown at me, God. Nothing's free. And everything goes up. I think everybody can almost accept that. But sometimes, you know, and I've been part of meetings where somebody said, look, if I don't have to pay for it, I'm not going to. But somebody has to. So where is the fair breakdown of basically paying for what you use. And that's why when we had our earlier discussion, some of this technology and stuff that might help on the back end would be a cost on the front end. Where's that happy medium, and where's the guy that goes, I'm gonna run what I wanna run and I don't care, I'm gonna pay for it, but I don't wanna pay a higher rate than the person that is being very conservative and being very, because there is limits. And systems do wear out, and capacity does get exceeded. So where is the next generation all of a sudden doesn't go, I'm on the hook for a $50 million facility because we didn't handle it here to stay current and proactive with it. And I share that responsibility as well, because I have voted down rate increases because you're trying not to put a burden on people as much as possible. I mean, you try to keep things, but there just has to be responsibility for people's self. And maybe that's just the barometer, because I've never believed in making your neighbor pay for somebody else.
But those customers, I couldn't give a percentage. Some of them are going to take the water resource education and conserve water. Some of the accounts we've heard from some of the audits that you've already done, people say, I had no idea.
Correct.
And when they look at the spikes, they say, oh, well, then that's when my kids are all taking showers. Well, that's, until they see it, they don't. And some of these people are going to make adjustments. Others aren't. And, some are going to help themselves and others aren't. And that's going to be the dilemma of the system, getting away from EDUs.
So when is the last time there was a rate increase? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, in 2016, we'd asked, so we received a CPI increase. We'd asked for more. We received a CPI increase. I believe that was applied in 2018, if I remember correct. Not right off the top of my head. But that was below what we needed to be solvent.
And I think in 2020, when in 2020, we were given two options, and of course, we chose the lower one.
Correct.
So, we need to get the politics out of it. That's the
You're
issue
absolutely
here.
right, because what's going
And
to happen is this huge bill's going to get there, and somebody's going to say, whoa, whoa, whoa.
It's where we are now.
Yeah, and but it'll be worse if we don't do it properly now. And you're right, it's going to break some eggs in the kitchen. Some people are going to be upset about it, but a fair number has to be put on there to forecast what it's going to cost 10 years, 15 years. I mean,
We do as part of our annual budget, we do use a rate model that was established several years ago to generate what an expected rate would be. And that is what we usually present.
So, based on what James just told you, in the last 6 years, we have not given them what they've asked for. Us, well, two
So,
of us.
with surrounding jurisdictions, where are we within close figures of them, or?
We're the lowest.
Yeah,
We're the lowest.
We're the lowest?
even in our own county, we are with other systems.
For the EDUs, we are way under everybody else. But
Like, what are the
even for the
beaches?
standard water rate, we're the lowest in all
sorry?
of Southern Maryland.
20,000, and we're 8.
But even not counting the EDUs, on our basic water rate, we're the lowest in all of Southern Maryland, at least.
So, and that's, the rate study will reevaluate that and look at it and provide us information compared to others around us.
Commissioners, one thing to point out, and I know several of the commissioners realized this back when the county purchased fire trucks many, many years ago. Those fire trucks were all purchased at one time, and then 20 years went by, and this balloon went up, and the cost to replace them was enormous. Well, the comparison is same here. If you keep pushing out the upgrading of the infrastructure without raising the prices, what you have is this huge balloon that you can't keep up with, and that's where partly we're there today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Get one more slide?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, so, our last slide. So one of the things we talked about on the 24th was applying best available technology. So we talked about earlier, and one of the things that the division is looking at is moving from our current metering practice using AMR to advanced meter infrastructure. And what this will do is allow us to provide substantially more data to our customers. We'll be able to provide a portal for them to look at how much water they're using, as well as get alerts as if they have a potential leak or if they have exceeded a set threshold of consumption. So that they can know that ahead of time before they receive a bill. So on that currently, we're looking at reviewing vendor offering to look at to see kind of what that'll look like for us. And then we do show that in our FY24 capital budget.
So I think the math earlier was $970 per customer. You spread that over 15 years because you're going to bond it, I assume. Get your calculator out. What is that?
A month?
$30 a year? No, more than that.
You said, I'm sorry. what was the
$60 a year to pay for the meters. The customers, they got to pay for these meters, so the repayment over 15 years is $90 a year, if my math is right in my head. I guess our earlier discussion was, when you look at $4 million, it's a
Yeah.
big chunk of money.
Correct.
Is it worth the investment? Are your customers going to say, okay, I'm willing to, I sign off on you to borrow $4 million and replace all the meters with this new technology?
Well, I think it helps with the educational component significantly as well, because they're able to monitor what they have going on.
Like James said, they'll get notifications if they have a leak. If there's water flowing in the middle of the night, they'll know.
And we'll have alarms, whereas we can have customer service and a good relationship
We
with
can
them
be
to reach
there.
out to them, say,
Yes.
hey, you have a problem, this is what's going on.
It'll allow us to be proactive on that, because right now we only get that reading quarterly. So every 3 months we're reading the meter.
Have
Whereas
you noticed your phone will even tell you how many hours screen time you've had? I'm serious, this week to last week, so maybe that's where it's all going.
So,
yeah,
the technology is going to tell me, hey, today you used 1,000 gallons of water because I watered my yard. Is it also going to tell me what that water cost me, or will I'll automatically know that because I know what my rate is? I'm sorry. I'm thinking out loud. That's always dangerous. But the new technology, as you say, will provide the customers, hey, today I get an email and I used, darn, what did I do today? Oh, yeah, I washed my car, and I watered my yard, and I topped off my pool. That can't cost much. But,
And you know, when you're on a well, you're so conscious of that. You know, when you're on your own septic, you're so conscious of that because what was the number? Mr. Allen, you said, gentleman just put that.
$25,000 for a new well.
So you think about that, you know, you think about a replacement of
And your septic's gonna be about the same.
Well, in being cognizant of having a well, we don't use our hose to fill our pool. We buy water. We have a big container to water that water goes into when it rains, and we water our plants. We don't water our yard. It halfway through summer, it looks like heck, but it comes back. You can't water 2, 3, and 4 acres of grass. So you have to get a well mentality and try to preserve that well and not have your motor burn up. So you take precautions and you do conserve. And people have to understand that.
I think you had mentioned at one of our discussions about monthly billing, but we've taken that off the table.
correct. Yeah, our intent is to stay with quarterly billing.
Right. I was just trying to think back of things had been discussed. So right now, we're going to wait for the study to come back and see what that tells us. I think the direction was every 30 days we get an update. So maybe in the next 30 days, we can get an update on where you are with your customer service out to those customers that got the bills and how that's going.
Education.
And see, do you have the ability to see if any of that's actually making a difference by that point?
We are getting ready to go into meter reading again. So we will be able to see some, if there's many changes.
I'm just wondering, because you said the one customer you talked to, when you show him the spikes, he said, oh my God, that's when my kids are taking showers. I had no idea. It would just be interesting to see if in a month that changes. And that
Right.
spike, you know, every morning at 6 o'clock, he's got this spike. If that, is that gonna really change? I guess is where I'm trying to go.
I mean, we do have a plan, in that instance, we do have a plan to continue to work with him just so that, we can figure out collaboratively if that is addressing it. So we're gonna go back weekly and review the logs with him for the prior weeks to see.
I just thought it might be interesting to see
Yes.
if it is making an impact, or maybe in 2 months, the spike is still the same because those kids don't care. Just,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
I'm sure there's been some interesting conversations.
Yeah, I know how that goes. But do they turn the spigot down at the end of the day?
Let's hope.
So I don't, anything else? So in 30 days, we'll see you again and.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. County Attorney, that brings us to public comment.
Yes, sir. The board adopted a resolution in 1989 intending to maintain the order and decorum of the governmental process. A copy is found here to my right. The Ethics Commission has asked that we remind speakers of public comment that lobbyists include those who seek to influence public policy, and lobbyists must register in advance. Floor has been open for public comment, first from persons in the meeting room who may begin making their way to the microphone, then those joining virtually. All speakers must identify themselves, and whether speaking as an individual, where you be allocated 2 minutes, or as the designated representative of a group, where you be allocated 5 minutes. For those attending virtually, please use the raise your hand function.
Commissioners, my name is Leonard Souza. I'm here speaking as an individual, and I'm also going to promise you that I'm going to keep my comments short. I don't want to make you late for supper or miss the evening news.
Thank you.
I'm speaking out to your mic.
Hold on 1 second, we're gonna replace the mic.
Make sure they can hear you. That one's working. I'm here to really congratulate you on the superb work you're doing in trying to protect the environment, protect residents' finances, and so forth. There are only 2 comments I want to make, and I'll make them quickly. Number 1, to reinforce your efforts to limit the consumption of water from wells and confined aquifers. I'd like to remind you that the water supply is the only public utility that you can't do a darn thing to improve. You can widen roads, you can expand sewage processing facilities, you can build new schools. You can't increase the amount of water in an aquifer. So your emphasis in looking at that is extremely important, and I commend you for doing that with such a wide-eyed approach to this, and I really appreciate it. I'd also like to make a second point, and that is that I will disagree with Mr. Staley in only one minor respect. And that's that Mr. Staley said that people whose wells are beginning to draw water that has arsenic in it were able to drill deeper wells. More than 70% of Calvert residents are on private wells. And Commissioner Ireland, with all due respect to your observation, if you have a shallow well to the Aquia and you have to drill a deeper well to get down to the Patapsco, it's going to cost a lot more than $25,000. So if you're a private individual. What Mr. Staley was referring to is public water systems where the amount of money that's available is certainly much larger. Those are the 2 points that I wanted to make for your consideration, and I want to commend you for, again, being so careful and deliberate in managing the resources of the county for everyone's benefit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Shelley Baden. I'm here to ask for your support and any influence you may have regarding the proposed budget for our school system. I'm asking for specific funds from the very generous budgeted proposal for workforce development and behavioral support to be dedicated to the training of collaborative, proactive solutions on professional development days. I am the parent of an explosive child. I've been using these strategies at home for 3 years. I reduced the behaviors and have eliminated aggression at home with my son. At every Board of Education meeting, there is continually a staff member discussing the behavior issues they are experiencing. It is not one type of student. It is not one school. The behavior problem is in every school. I am infuriated that CCPS has had the solutions to reduce and even eliminate the behavioral problems for 3 years, and the appropriate training has not been implemented in all schools and for all staff. The solutions are based off Ross Green's books, Lost at School, The Explosive Child. This training is called Collaborative Proactive Solutions. CCPS started the training of Collaborative Proactive Solutions in a pilot program at 4 elementary schools in January 2020. 1 school completed the training that year. To my knowledge, it has been extended to 6 more schools. CCPS needs to train all 25 schools, all teaching staff, and support staff on collaborative proactive solutions. Dedicate specific professional development training days just for collaborative proactive solutions. The strategies from the collaborative proactive solutions are proven to reduce and even eliminate behavior in our school systems. Behavior should be looked at as a form of communication. Genuine relationships between staff and students need to be established. Staff need to learn how to look beyond the incident and collaborate with the student on the why. Then, and only then, work can begin on the unsolved problems and the strategies to prevent the behavior from reoccurring. Then, and only then, will we stop seeing the staff courageously talk about aggression. Then, and only then, will CCPS be able to increase the learning opportunities for all students. I appreciate your time, and I hope for your support.
Thank you. Anyone else in the meeting room? Mr. Cormier, if you please unmute yourself, identify yourself, and whether speaking as an individual or as the representative of a group.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Joseph Cormier, and I'll be speaking on behalf of myself. I just want to say thank you for a great meeting today. I've been listening in while I've been working here. We've learned a lot today. I just want to shout out all the staff behind the scenes that support you, who put these presentations together and come up and bring this information to you. They really are the backbone of our county. Thank you, Shelley Baden, for coming up and giving your comments today. You're a parent and a rock star, and we appreciate you, Calvert CCAC. Commissioners, I sat on the Interagency Coordinating Council meeting the other day for early interventions, and we had groups with, Hippie and Head Start and public schools and Judy Centers and infants and toddlers, and I had never heard of the Calvert County Family Network Community Support Group, so I definitely want to learn more about them and get them as part of that. Thank you for all the things you're doing to make the water systems right and take care of our community. So thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank
you.
That was the last speaker, Mr. President.
So before I do commissioner reports, and since staff is still sitting in here, I did remember what we can do the next 30 days. We have some commercial customers that have issues, and maybe we can, the next 30-day report, we can talk about how that's going. Thank you. Sorry. Commissioner Cox?
On the 18th, I attended Company 2 banquet, and just a shout out for the volunteers over there. They had 1,479 calls last year with 0 failed calls, so a shout out to them. On the 20th, I attended the Southern Maryland Business Town Hall with the delegation. On the 22nd, went to a Southern Maryland Pest Management Conference, and on Thursday night, attended Calvert County Sheriff's Office Awards Ceremony, and also in attendance was Deputy Flint. Nice to see him out. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Ireland?
On the 20th, I also attended the Small Business Town Hall. It was held at the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors in Hughesville. The delegation talked about some of the bills through Annapolis and their concerns and expressed them. Also attended the awards banquet at St. John Vianney. Several deputies and correctional deputies were acknowledged for their accomplishments. On the 25th, Corporal Glenn Libby retired from the sheriff's office and attended a celebration for him. He did 28 years with the sheriff's office, and he had his entire family there. It was the first time in 2 years. He said that the family had been together. He's got 2 sons that are serving us in the military. He's definitely an asset to the county, particularly the Calvert County Public School System, and a mentor for countless youth. He's definitely a loss.
Commissioner Grasso?
I also attended the Small Business Town Hall meeting, and in the past 2 weeks, I've attended 2 legislative subcommittee meetings related to MACO. 2 Mako meetings. I had my first ribbon cutting in Prince Frederick at Let's Play. I'd advise anybody with younger children to go there if they just have a wonderful setup for parents to sit there and let their kids loose. And they're off of their technology, I call them gizmos, but it gives kids the opportunity to play. And then last night with Commissioner Hance, we made an Eagle Scout presentation to Trey Linebacker, and that was really nice. It's really nice to see our youth and what they're doing in this county.
Commissioner Hart?
So I was at the town hall meeting as well, with fellow commissioners, and me and Commissioner Hance met with the superintendent, still working on the blueprint, which you will get many sessions about that, I imagine. So that's work in progress. And then I also, which was really cool, went to the 100th birthday party of Miss Grace Korn. She is remarkable. At 85, she went scuba diving. I'm 54. I'm afraid to go now. I know what's in
And
the
you should be.
I know there's stuff out there. That young lady found that big shark tooth and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I see Shark Week every year. So yeah. So she was fascinating. She knew so much history, and it was really cool because so much of the community showed up there, and we were all talking just about stuff that, for the last 30, 40 years type things. That was really cool. So, and that's about it.
Good. So I missed a lot of those functions last weekend. I took my wife away for Valentine's Day weekend because I'm a great husband.
Very nice.
That's good.
But last night we did do the Eagle ceremony for Trey, and the young man told us he's trying to apply to get into the Naval Academy. So it's a fine young man, and he's got a brother coming right behind him. I always talk about the Eagle Scouts and what a great opportunity and organization that is. Encourage everybody to try to get their kids involved in some youth activity, 4-H or Scouts or whatever. Keep them out of trouble and keep them on the right path. Once again, I want to extend our condolences to the Wells family, the Wood family, and the Phelps family for their losses. And I believe that's all I have, and I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.